computer. Actually, I kind of want that in there now. All right, welcome to Marvin's Room, where we are rated T for teen. Language, suggestive themes, use of alcohol, and violence. No, we're going to go ahead and hit play on that. I'm going to mute as well, because I assume the footage will get us copyright struck, probably, but...
Oh, yeah, the hype.
If we don't have the audio, this will at least be able to play on Spotify when we do the eventual, so I'll just be playing that in the background. So for this one, this is kind of like a special edition Marvin's Room. We're doing a Final Fantasy VII Remake spoiler cast. I got my boy James Helton here with me today. And before we get into it, I have to take you to task, sir.
Uh-oh.
So James, the other day, messaged me on Snapchat, and he said, bro, here's my new number, and give me the number. And I was like, that's kind of weird he messaged me on Snapchat, but he also knows that, you know, if you just text me out of the blue from a number I don't know, I probably wouldn't respond. So I thought James was just being polite by using a method that I knew, like, he would message me from. So I text a meme. It's a meme of Don Draper standing in front of a presentation board as though he is Pixar, and the presentation is, we're going to give every mom an absolute dump truck of an ass, and I hit send, because that's a meme that I thought that you would enjoy.
Oh, I would definitely appreciate it.
So, the person says, new phone, who it is. Now, James, you being who you are, that's an equal chance of you knowing it's me and just saying that for the bit, to goof.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what I put on my Snapchat, too, was new phone, who this.
Exactly. So...
it couldn't have played out any better.
I send this person a selfie of me just doing like a double chin type thing. And they're like, I still have no idea who you are. And this is when I became suspicious. That's something to look at. So I go, hey, lo and behold, it turned out the phone number that James gave me was not for him. It was for a random person. To which
we still don't know who it is.
We still don't know who it is. Tell the person about the podcast. And I did get a new subscriber that day. When I told them about the podcast, they subscribed to the podcast.
They're going to be waiting for this episode is what's going to happen.
Yeah,
they're going to be like, that's that motherfucker.
To youtube.com/Marvin Comedy, home of the Marvin's Room podcast. So person, if you hear this, give us a comment down below. Tell us your side of the story. Because they were like, okay, cool, I'm just glad you're not some creep. I've had a bad history with stalkers in the past.
Ooh, wow.
And I was like,
that's rough.
The only way that could have been worse is if the number that you like randomly picked just happened to be like my ex's phone number. Like,
oh, dude, that would be awful.
The only way that could have been worse. Just because it's quarantine. I don't care how good your breakup was or how bad it was. Don't be texting your ex. Quarantine. Text random people like I did by accident because of James. So, James, you got anything you want to fucking say for yourself?
Well, first off, I'm sorry that I'm not sorry how it played out because
don't be sorry to
flawless.
Me. I thought it was hilarious.
I'm sorry to the person that I randomly did this to because I'm pretty sure
I was worried we like gave her a heart attack.
Oh no, you aren't the only one that messaged her. I did it to like I did it or
I'm
well
assuming,
him,
I'm assuming
her,
their gender, which I should not do.
Yeah. Anyway, it was like. I think I sent that to like 10, 15 people to see who would take the bait. So it had to be like 10, like at least 5 of those people that actually messaged.
Dang, dude. Well, beyond that, I always like to start the show with, how are you doing? How's the quarantine life? You said you were working on some crafty type things, building a bar, I believe.
Yeah, I ended up getting it laid out and just not doing it because I was like, well, I could do it, but then I can have no one here to enjoy it with.
I thought you were gonna say I ended up getting laid, and then I realized normally the bar comes first, so I didn't need to do that anymore.
Yeah, right. Like completely bypass that part. Like, no, I just.
Speaking of bar, I'm here just like mixing myself a boy.
Completely lost all interest in it when I was like, well, even if I do this, it's still going to be a month or something until somebody can come hang out and
That's
enjoy
true.
it.
Yeah, I'm repping the Tolly's Bar and
I
Grill
know. I
T-shirt.
noticed.
They announced today that they're going to start doing. I think they said they're going to wait until May 14th before they start doing curbside again, just in order to maintain compliance with guidelines. But it's looking like if the governor of Indiana's June 14th sort of goal holds up, we'll be back at Tolly's hopefully in mid-June. So look for
it'll be right after my birthday and all that.
Yeah, we'll just miss your birthday. We'll do a
Darn
belated
it.
birthday for you and about like 50 other
30
people.
other people, yeah, right.
I was about to say so far we've missed like 20 birthdays. There were like 2 or 3 shows, comedy shows and music shows and things that Tolly's had planned, and comedy shows just around town that we had planned. So it'll be good to get back in it. I definitely miss doing stand up.
Yeah, dude, how is that affecting you though? That's what I want to know, because you were doing that on a weekly basis, you know?
It's
you were
the weird
always
thing.
like always doing it. Like if you weren't doing something during the week, you at least were always there on Friday.
Yeah, and the thing is, doing this has really helped. Like I have a lot of comedy friends who they've been doing virtual open mics, which is cool, but it for me personally, I will say for me personally, I'm not going to sit here and like be like, oh, that's a stupid idea, don't do that. Right. A lot of people have like had a good time with it. They've been doing like Instagram Live, and they've been doing Facebook Live, and they've been comedy's still thriving, which is fun.
Oh yeah, it's completely palpable.
I gotta say, it's been kind of a little bit of a nice break, I guess, from doing stand-up. I definitely miss it. I'm ready to be back on stage. But doing this and learning how to do the podcast side of things and kind of taking a step back, it's making me realize I'm not as extroverted as I may have thought I was in the past. I think I'm a little more in the ambivert, like middle ground. I definitely miss people, but I'm not like losing my mind. Like, oh my god, I gotta see. I'm just like I'm chilling. I'm playing games.
Yeah.
I'm cooling. Like I'm taking her easy. But I'm definitely ready to get back on stage. At the very least, I'm ready just to be able to be with everybody in person, because as I've talked about with Kat and literally everybody who's done this podcast, I mean, we've had the consensus of this is nice, but obviously it doesn't beat the real thing.
Oh yeah, definitely. And this is not like, this whole thing was okay for, 2-3 weeks, but then like you start getting into like months, and it's like, oh God, this better not be the reality. And that's what I've been getting from everybody I've talked to, is like, dude, if this is the reality of like until September, October, we're all going to lose our fucking minds. Yeah. So that's hopefully. It's a good thing for our state though, because they just put out, what was that, like last week or the beginning of the week? Yeah. That we're going to be, moving to open everything up. As long as people don't fuck it up for the rest of us. Yeah, well, protesting and shooting McDonald's employees like we had today. Yeah, I saw that. I saw you post that. Like, what the hell? And then there was a security guard at a Family Dollar, like a loss prevention guy, who was trying to be like, hey, you got to wear a mask, whatever, and he was literally murdered. Somebody killed that guy. Like dude, people are literally getting murdered right at it's God. Like, fucking stop, like chill. Like all of the people that are like, oh my God, the world's going to hell. Like all of these people that are protesting against it, like you're the reason. They're the people that are like setting the world on fire. Yeah, it's like self-prophetic, you know what I mean? Yeah, it's like, exactly. Well, it really is. It's like, well, the world's going to hell as I'm standing here beating my fucking pitchfork. Exactly, and that's the whole thing, where it's the ongoing joke right now with seeing all of them wearing like Trump shirts and hats and things, yelling at police. They're like, wow, I guess blue lives don't matter as much as maybe they wanted us to think they did to these people. Right. So, or, all lives don't really matter after all, because they don't want to actually protect anybody. Yeah, dude. It's rough. Before we say anything too divisive, because Levi is a drinking, and I could go on this all day, the thing that's making us stay sane is, luckily, is video game. Oh my God. And it's gorgeous. That is one of the most beautiful
So
one
I'm
of the
gonna
most beautiful things.
The warning here. This will also be where I'm probably gonna put the intro. Right there for Levi.
Yeah, snap.
Spoilers now. Your warning for spoilers is now. We're going to be spoiling probably the entire Final Fantasy VII compendium if it gets brought up. That's everything from OG Final Fantasy VII up through the remake. This could cover Final Fantasy VII, Dirge of Cerberus, fucking Crisis Core, the Advent Children movie, the remake. Definitely the remake. The remake's going to be the focus, but y'all know my tendency to go on tangents. I'm going to be talking about the other Final Fantasy VII properties throughout this. James, I don't know how much you know about the other properties.
Okay, yeah, so I'm super familiar with OG and Remake. Okay. Now, I did see Advent Children back when it came out, so that was ages ago. And I know the premise of Crisis Core. I never actually played.
Okay, that's fair.
But I will spoil the shit out of it. I will spoil the shit out of it.
Yeah, because I've never played it. It's just the same spoilers for Crisis Core that are relevant are the same spoilers that are in the OG.
Yeah, the remake.
The remake. So there's your spoiler warning. Ravioli, give me the spoiler-oli. If you don't give a shit about Final Fantasy VII Remake, then you probably shouldn't have clicked on this because I'm literally going to make the thumbnail. Like, I'm probably going to, like, no, literally, that's what it's going to be. It's going to be Final Fantasy VII Remake spoiler cast. And I'm probably going to make a custom, like, thumbnail. I'm going to get a picture, and I'm just going to, like, superimpose, like, you and me onto, like, Cloud and Sephiroth or some shit. So... We'll see. I don't have good editing software. Like, for those that are wondering how I do the podcast, I record the Zoom call and then I edit it in a very, very fine-tuned and modern software called Windows Movie Maker. And then I'll be using a very modern, cutting-edge piece of technology called Microsoft Paint. So
oh yeah,
that's the quality you can expect from the Marvin's Room podcast. But let's go ahead and jump right in. James, what were your thoughts on the remake?
And we kind of discussed it a little bit. My huge take was it was like a solid 9 out of 10. And the only reason I'm giving it a 9 is because of the fucking trail off at the very end of the game. They just fucking... I
agree.
You know, when you jump off the fucking bridge, it's like they were at the storyboard and they're like, well, why not if you jump off the bridge, we just throw the whole story off the fucking bridge.
And you know what I blame for the story going the way it went?
I think we all know what happened.
You know what I blame? Here's what I'm going to blame right here. Ready? Are you ready?
Kingdom fucking Hearts. Yep.
This is what I fucking blame right here.
Yeah. What, they did it with Kingdom Hearts 3?
That is exactly what I blame, because the ending to this game is the most Kingdom Hearts fucking bullshit. It is classic Tetsuya Nomura in the modern era. Like, it's
Is he the director or the producer?
He was the director and he was the lead character designer on the original. So he wasn't even the main, like, story director.
Right.
He didn't become the big shot that he is at Square until Kingdom Hearts. He was just kind of a story and character designer on games. And then Kingdom Hearts came out, and then it just blew up. So Square was like, all right, you're the man now, dog.
You can kind of see that, too, because what he tries to do is to incorporate every goddamn character onto the screen. He tries to fit everyone in these cutscenes on the screens, and it's like, yeah, but it doesn't. Sometimes it takes so much away to have so much on a screen at once.
I agree, and
that's not to take away from it because it's still gorgeous. But you also just stretched in the original game. It was what, 4 hours, 5 hours?
It was,
and you made it into 40 hours with the gameplay. So it's like, dude, you're already stretching it that much. You don't have to, like, throw, you know what I mean? You don't have to, like, bunch anything in at that point. It's all stretched out.
Yeah, so, and then they did the thing, and I feel like a lot, and we'll get to the end. Let's kind of, what I wanted to do is kind of go
like roll through it.
Like we can roll through it as we're talking. But yeah, I definitely like that sort of overall assessment. Because yeah, that really is what it felt like. It felt like it's supposed to be part one because it is installments.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be part one, but it's also supposed to be a contained piece of media because it's part one, but we're not getting the next part probably for 3-4 years at the very, like, that's if they like crank it out and they were already working on it. Right now, Kingdom Hearts stops, everything else with Square stops, they hold brakes on everything, and then it's going to be probably a release title for PS5. I mean,
well, let me add to that. I was doing a little bit of research into the second part, and what I was reading was that before they even released, they were working on the second part.
I could
so
see
when
that.
they were doing the because I mean, you have the characters, you have the models, you have the animations and all that. So it's basically just changing the world around these character models. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah, it's going to be easier on part two.
Now, granted, that's not to say that it's easy, but it's easier than making it from scratch.
And if we see what all characters we already have models for Cloud. We already have models for Tifa. The cast that you see, right?
Yeah.
Cloud, Tifa, Aerith, Barrett, and you know, frigging Sephiroth. I mean, they're there. They're already there. Literally, we saw Kate Sith for like 2 seconds.
Yeah.
And like, and that's probably one of my main gripes besides the Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah.
Is that Square always was like, even if you didn't play the original, we want everybody, even if you didn't play original Final Fantasy VII, you're not going to be lost. And
you would be fucking lost.
About the second, the final third of the game, that's a bold-faced fucking lie.
Yeah.
Because you're going to see Kate Sith and go, who?
Yeah.
And they don't hint at all. Like again, spoilers, the whole thing spoilers, not to go Kev Smith, but spoilers.
Yeah, right.
Kate Sith is a little like robot android cat that is kind of controlled, but kind of not. It's kind of vague that he's like an AI, but he can also be remote controlled by Reeve from Shinra. Reeve, the urban planning director of Shinra. No, I was just making sure you were good, man.
No, you're fine.
So we have Kate Sith for like 2 seconds.
My kid.
Oh, you're good. And they reference the war with Wutai a lot, which is not something that I remember hearing about a lot in original Final Fantasy VII, but it's also
not at
been
all.
a long time. I watched a Twitch streamer play through OG Final Fantasy VII because she played the remake.
Yeah.
But she had not, like, she was not somebody like us who grew up with the original. She's around our age. It's just, she just, you know.
Yeah, well, it was kind of like
a lot of people, if they didn't get into it with 7, they got into it with 10. And she was one of the ones that got into it with 10.
Dude, 10 was super monumental. See, and I had 7.
And I will say, if you've never played a Final Fantasy game, 10 is a pretty good one to start with.
For the turn-based style of playing, 10 was like the peak.
It's also the last one to really have that.
I know, and that's what I mean.
12
is like
kind of does, I think. I never played 12, but from what I hear,
you know what? 12 was gorgeous because of the step away. I know I'm kind of trailing off, but I love 12.
I mean, dude,
I did because what it was they started with that the time, instead of turn, it was time based, but you could still float around. So you would have an active battlefield, but it would just still be the time based where you still have to wait for an attack, but it was more active. And they also introduced a style called Gambits, which you could prioritize attacks by status alignments or enemy or foe, or foe or party member. So like you could put cures above attacks or attacks above cures, or if it's it was a nice like layering, because then your battles became like a chess game rather than just like sitting and attacking. Yeah. If you could watch a playthrough, watch 12, because it's pretty cool just for that aspect.
And I know they've done remakes too. They did one for PS4, they did one for Switch called Zodiac Age.
And that's the one. They actually, what they did was they delved in further. They actually just added a new layer of the customization. It was pretty cool.
Okay, that's great, dude. Yeah, I'll have to check that out. Because that's one of the few ones I haven't played. 13 is kind of like that. 13's a little more turn-based, I guess. So I wouldn't say 10 is the last one to have turn-based, but it's the last one to have the traditional, I guess, more of the sense.
Yeah. So 13 and 12 are pretty much identical.
12
but like
and
the
13 have a lot more of what we see in the remake.
Yeah, but it's still, dude.
Whereas the remake is kind of a mix of that with 15, where Final Fantasy 15 is just, I mean, it's essentially the same type of combat as Kingdom Hearts. There is a mode in it called wait mode, where like it'll slow down time for you to make decisions. Yeah. But I've never really delved into it, because with the type of game that 15 is, you may as well just play it like Kingdom Hearts, because that's essentially the play style they went. And that's what I worry about with any future installments, because Tetsuya Nomura was the director of Final Fantasy 15. And then he left Final Fantasy 15 when it was about 75 to 80% of the way done to work on Kingdom Hearts 3. And he left it to Hajime Tabata, who was so stressed and basically pissed off about what Square did with 15, because the game came out, even though it was delayed, it still came out too early. It wasn't completed for about a full year. It took a lot of DLC to complete. There were about I know there are at least, no, 3. There's 3 pieces of DLC that we were supposed to get for Final Fantasy 15 that Square Enix canceled and said they were going to make into just like young adult novel type things. To round out the story. Because we're supposed to get episode, because we got Arden, who is the villain, and then we were supposed to get episode Luna, episode Aranea, and episode Noctis. And Noctis was gonna basically bring everything full circle. Because episode Noctis, obviously that's Final Fantasy 15. That's the campaign.
Yep.
So he left that to go work on Kingdom Hearts 3, and then he got Kingdom Hearts 3 about 75 to 80% of the way done, from what people say. And then he dropped it for the remake. He let the rest of the team go, okay, cool, you guys go do this. And they already basically had the B team working on Kingdom Hearts 3, which is why it largely ended up the way it did, because their A team was working on Final Fantasy 7 Remake. Yeah. And the same team that made Kingdom Hearts 3 were the same team that made Birth by Sleep, the 3DS game, Dream Drop Distance, 358 Over 2 Days, the ones that people regard as okay to bad.
Yeah.
With Kingdom Hearts 3 being that. Luckily, however, the main Final Fantasy fan base, at least the fan base with Final Fantasy 7, not only do you have the hardcore like Square Enix Final Fantasy group, also have the nostalgia people that may have fallen off the map with Final Fantasy 7, or may have fallen off the map with Final Fantasy, who played 7, who had a lot of very high expectations for this title, and have very high expectations moving forward. So I'm hoping that means that Nomura is not going to 3/4 ass it.
Right. I mean, dude,
with the sequels, and hopefully, I don't want. Here's the thing. As much as I would like another Kingdom Hearts game, if it means we don't get another Kingdom Hearts game for the rest of forever until they finish churning out 7 Remake, we already waited like 12 or 13 years for Kingdom Hearts 3 between 2 and 3 with all like the side, like in between crap.
Yeah.
And even then, it was still like it was about the same length of time from announcement to release for Remake as it was for Kingdom Hearts 3, as it was for Final Fantasy 15. It was originally Final Fantasy versus 13. It was supposed to be in the Final Fantasy 13 universe, and they took so long, they were just like, fuck it, it's 15 now.
Yep. Too late now.
They could halt production on anything remotely Kingdom Hearts related if they just churn out the rest of the remake.
Oh, dude, I'm going to go ahead.
Feel the same way.
I'm going to go ahead and say that, like, 2/3 to 3/4 of people, if somebody came out and said, yes, we're struggling with the second part of the remake, we're going to pull all of our studios together to get it done, and everything else is going to get pushed back 6 months to a year. No one's going to say a fucking word.
Just churn it out.
2/3 to 3/4 of your fan base is going to be like, thank God.
With
make
COVID.
It right. Thank God. Just make it right.
With COVID, everything's already delayed.
Well, that's what I mean. I mean, even in like a standard, timeline where nothing's going on. People are going to be just enjoy the honesty. Just like, I mean, we realize how in depth that looks. I mean, if you just look in the background, just watching that, it's unreal.
Oh yeah.
On how much detail needs to go in, and it's got to be so much harder too. You're not building something from scratch where you can kind of bob and weave however you want with the story and the characters and everything.
Oh yeah.
You have a backbone and you have to stick to it. And if you deviate too far, which is part of what they did at points, people are going to tell you, stop doing that. It's not, it's not worth taking away from what was. Because everybody expected a cliffhanger. I expected a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Where you get to this part and it's done. And it's like, haha, wait till we put the next part out, fuckers.
Well, and that's the thing where, I don't know. Let's go ahead and we'll go beat by beat. Let's go ahead and go beat by beat. Because
we're going to rant.
It's going to go unbridled enthusiasm, a little bit less enthusiasm, more enthusiastic again. And then it's just like rant time. So,
we're good. Chop it off.
Starting off, if you played the demo, you've already played the first 45 minutes of the game. If you played the demo and you haven't played the game yet, and for some reason you're watching this just because you either don't care about Final Fantasy or you just think we're cute and you just want to listen to us talk, in which case, who could blame you?
Hey.
You've already played the first 45 minutes of the game, and I'm going to take another drink before I get into this because I need some. Also, for anybody wondering, this is a shot of tequila mixed with Mountain Dew Baja Blast. I'm calling it, for these purposes, a Mako reactor because it kind of has the color to it.
Nice.
It's probably got an actual name, Baja Blast and tequila.
Liquid
I imagine
Materia.
most bartenders would call it a bad decision. But it's Mountain Dew Zero Sugar, so there's not even any sugar in it. So I'll just get drunk and a caffeine high at the same time. That'll be great.
Perfect for podcasts.
It's you know what? It's one shot of tequila. Like, it's not even that strong. Like, I just did it for effect, just to take a little edge off. I work today. It's Friday. We're chilling. I wish there was now see, on the PS4, there's not like an autoplay like there is on other things. Final Fantasy VII Remake cutscenes, full movie. There we go. 8 hours. I doubt we're gonna go for 8 hours.
Yeah, we are gonna outpace.
We probably could, honestly, but but yeah, man. So starting off, we have the classic like Final Fantasy VII intro.
Oh yeah, and it's
which
gorgeous.
I think is dope as hell. I love it. And the bombing mission. So I gotta say right now, the music I would say is probably the best part. My favorite part.
Beautiful.
Like, the graphics are good, the gameplay is great, the voice acting was surprisingly good. I was worried because
phenomenal.
I was worried the voice acting, not that it was going to be bad, just Japanese game voice acting, anime type voice acting, Final Fantasy game, Kingdom Hearts voice acting. Not always the best. And a lot of these characters, surprisingly, like in the original, obviously they weren't voiced. It was all text in the PS1 original. But we have the same voices for these characters since about Kingdom Hearts. We get Steve Burton playing Cloud, who this is the first time he has not played Cloud in a piece of Final Fantasy VII related media. He was Cloud in Advent Children. He was Cloud in the Kingdom Hearts series. And he also voices Cloud in Super Smash Brothers.
Right.
As well, in both Super Smash Brothers 4 and Smash Ultimate. I should have, I'm going to look up the cast just because I don't really, there's one person that I knew as far as the main cast. And then as far as like side cast, like side characters or background characters, literally if they've ever been a voice actor for a video game, they're in this game. Like, I saw fucking Ego Raptor from Game
dude.
I saw Aaron Hansen on this.
Dude.
Like,
there's so many recognizable voices just going through and hearing. Even just the NPCs, like, you can still hear some NPCs that are, like, recognizable voices.
Well, and then there's Johnny, who's an original character to this. The guy who's, like, obsessed with Tifa.
Yeah, and he, like, runs around like
Cloud
a
Bro.
Everybody.
He's probably my favorite of, like, the new characters. He's Yuri Lowenthal.
Oh,
who we most recently heard in a video game in Sony's Spider-Man as Peter Parker.
Yeah.
As well as countless other things. He's Sasuke Uchiha. He's he plays Xenoblade Chronicles X. He's the default hero voice. I learned that the other day because I started playing Xenoblade Chronicles X for the first time in 5 years because I got my Wii U back out.
Oh yeah.
Quarantine made me desperate. Okay.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy to hear. It's crazy to not realize that you've heard the same actor's voice so many times.
Oh yeah.
And then you kind of go back and you're like, well, wait a minute. I know this guy. I've heard it about 1,000,000 times. And you start looking into their, like their IMDb, and you're like, Jesus, dude, they've been in like almost every game I've played in the last 10 years.
Yeah. The actor who plays Aerith, Brianna White is her name. I found her on Twitch.
She streams, yeah.
She's a Twitch
streamer. She was streaming with Barrett, right?
Yeah.
The other day.
And
I saw that.
There's a clip going around where she got to the part where like Aerith comes in and she like started crying and it was like the cutest thing on the planet. I think she's also in I haven't confirmed this. Somebody said she's in Persona 5 as the cat. But I think she just sounds like it. I don't know. I'm on IMDb. I'm looking at these people, and all I'm seeing are like, let's see. The actor who plays. Oh shit! You still there, James?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I cut off there for a minute. The actor who plays Tifa, her name's Britt Barron. She is in Glow on Netflix. She is the girl who ends up being, she's Mark Maron's daughter character.
Of course.
I did not realize that.
Didn't even know.
Yeah.
It's funny to see it's funny to see actual actors, actresses that cross into a lot of voiceover work.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's not that they're not good looking enough. It's just
you just don't think.
Yeah, you just don't realize.
What they do.
Yeah,
two people from MTV's Teen Wolf are in the FF7 remake cast. The voice of Cloud is Cody Christensen, or Cody Christian rather, excuse me. He plays Theo in Teen Wolf. I haven't seen the Teen Wolf series.
I haven't either. I mean, I know it was like, I know it was apparently pretty good for what it was.
Tyler Hoechlin, he plays Derek in the Teen Wolf series. He's Superman in the CW Supergirl.
Oh, okay, yeah. No,
he's the voice of Sephiroth.
Oh,
and does a really good job.
Dude, Sephiroth. Oh man.
Let's see. I just want to kind of go through these and give people their credit. John Eric Bentley as the voice of Barrett. Trying to see if he's been in anything that we would recognize. He was in the Project Resistance Resident Evil thing that was included with the Resident Evil 3 remake.
Oh, yeah.
And he's been in he's Nick Fury in Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3. And then, he's various background voice credits on other games, Red Dead Redemption 2, Kingdom Hearts 3, Call of Duty, Spider-Man. So he's various...
that's kind of a big thing with voice acting too, is you get thrown into a lot of different things, but you get a few decent roles.
Oh yeah, those guys work.
Oh yeah.
Max Middleman was Red 13. He's the voice of Saitama in One Punch Man.
Wow.
I did not put that together. He's also Ryuji in Persona 5. Okay. So we got Saitama as Red 13. I was bummed to not be able to play as Red 13, but I definitely understood.
Yeah,
we'll get to that as well. There's apparently somebody from the Breaking Bad cast.
I will say that the Red 13 thing matches the pacing.
It does. Oh gosh, the guy who played Biggs was in a lot of stuff as well. Moon Knight and Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 was also in Teen Wolf.
Wow.
What is up with people from MTV's Teen Wolf being in this game? The voice of Biggs. I'm trying to see, and I'm just going chronologically here. So these people may have had, I know there was somebody from this dude played Moon Knight in a bunch of Marvel stuff. So I dig that.
Yeah, Moon Knight's pretty dope.
Gosh, there was somebody who was in Breaking Bad. I think it's the voice of Wedge. They say he played like a Badger in Breaking Bad. Yeah, El Camino, a Breaking Bad story. He plays Badger.
Oh, okay.
So any Breaking Bad fans out there, the Wedge is, and then the voice of Jesse is Erica Lindbeck, who was the voice of Black Cat in Spider-Man, in the PS4
She must
Spider-Man.
have had a lot of water, man, because Jesse was so damn thirsty in that game.
She was thirsty. She was also Futaba in Persona 5.
Oh.
So she had another RPG credit. She's also Carol Danvers in Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3. A lot of Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3. I wonder if there was she's Cassie Cage in Mortal Kombat 11.
Oh, that's wild. That's wild.
So
that's a wicked game in itself too.
So yeah, so there you go. And then there's a whole bunch of other people who were in this. I'm not going to go through them all because we don't have that kind of time. John DiMaggio was Heidegger. We know him best as Jake the Dog, Bender, and also like every cartoon.
I would have never guessed that. Would have never guessed that.
And then I think it's Fred Tatasciore, Frank. I think it's Fred Tatasciore. He was the voice of Don Corneo, which I know a lot of people thought was Mark Hamill at first.
Oh no.
Tatasciore, he plays a lot of. He was the Hulk in a lot of the Marvel Avengers cartoons in the last couple of years. He various characters in Kingdom Hearts. After Christopher Lee passed, he took on Ansem the Wise in the Kingdom Hearts series. Big voice actor in games and cartoons. And then we talked about Yuri Lowenthal, and then all kinds of like it had just like additional voices, and there's literally like a screen for just additional voices, and literally like if they've been in like a piece of Japanese or video game media, they're there. Like I saw everything from just like people I recognize from like Funimation stuff, like people who were like Dragon Ball. Like I'm pretty sure I saw Christopher Sabat in there.
Oh, dude, yeah.
And
it's just
like
unreal.
Aaron Hansen, and just like I wouldn't be surprised if they stuffed Troy Baker in there somewhere, just like in the background. If he's not there, I could totally see him being Vincent Valentine if they don't bring back Steve Bloom to play Vincent Valentine.
Ooh.
Because they seem pretty, and that's what's cool too, is it wasn't that jarring having new actors, because the actors they got sounded like the people that we already know. The guy who played Barrett in this pretty much sounds like Barrett in Advent Children. The guy they got here sounds close enough to Steve Burton. The biggest change was definitely Aerith. Whoever was voicing Aerith in Kingdom Hearts 2 and Advent Children, I'm sorry, it must have been the writing. I'm sure she's a very good actor. It must have been like the direction that they did in the original Japanese. They're trying to match that. She like whispers everything that she says. Wow, I promise. Like she's just like a walking coma.
I know.
And this one, like they let her be sassy, and they like they kept the.
She had a lot of attitude.
They kept the vibe of the original.
Of course,
which I like. They didn't water it down, because so much media with these characters kind of has their personalities as they are like at the end of Final Fantasy VII. Because like Cloud was very much just like, all right, now I'm me, so now I got to figure out who I am. So I'm gonna be all silent and brooding, as opposed to sassy and like I'm pretending to be Zach Fair, and then just a whole ass thing. But yeah, man. So we get the bombing mission. We're at the beginning of the game.
So we jump off the train and we wax the first two guys.
Yeah.
It thrusts you right in. It thrusts you right in, just like the original. It puts you into it. Gorgeous.
It literally they don't wait. There's a little bit of tutorial stuff, but it doesn't stop the game more than it should.
Yeah, and it's not like super overbearing, because I did the first playthrough on normal, because I was like, well, I don't care. I'm just gonna play it as hard and make it feel, like it did when I first played the damn original when I was like 8, which was like impossible. I think I only got to like the Leviathan area when I played the original the first time through. Okay. Anyway, no, I jumped in a normal, and it didn't screw with the pacing. It didn't really screw me over. Like, yes, I died a lot of times.
Yeah, I died my fair amount, which I liked. There were only a few parts that were really frustrating, just because like the parts that were frustrating, I will admit, was like some areas of poor game design where it's like, okay, cool, you designed it this way, and this way, and then like kind of the death chariot fight in the train graveyard.
Oh,
like
man.
I didn't really die a lot to it, but it was kind of bullshit.
It's a pain.
And Hell House is kind
I
of
was
bullshit.
getting ready to bring that up, dude. Hell House is
it was
a
fun.
nightmare.
I'm glad they brought Hell House back because there was a lot. And this has been said to death already by everybody who's talked about this game. But there was a lot of worry that they were going to try to make it a little too practical and get rid of like the more like fanciful elements that you expect out of Final Fantasy.
Like, no, please, for the love of God, make it ridiculous. It was ridiculous.
They kept it ridiculous, which was nice. So we get, you get all the way up to Guard Scorpion, and you go through it. Anytime there's a tutorial part, it's not super intrusive. I say that as somebody who, like, I'm not like an expert in game design. I've just played enough games to know what I like.
No, it's super passive.
But
it's like, hey,
it's not like Mega Man. Like, say if you played Mega Man X5 and 6. I will not go on this rant. I will just say, look up Sequelitis, Mega Man X. Ego Raptor does a video perfectly explaining the problem with these types of tutorials, where it stops you and it's just like, hey, if you look at over there, there's something that you can jump off of. And it doesn't even make sense, like, because in good game design, here it kind of does that once. It does it one time, where it's like, here's how you can interact with the environment. There's squares on the floor. You walk up to it, Cloud will jump over the thing.
Yeah.
In Mega Man X5, it's like every 5 seconds. Like, literally in the intro stage, you get like 3 more steps forward, and then it stops you to be like, if you charge up your buster, you can kill that thing. It's like, okay, it's a Mega Man game. I could have figured that out. We've already had a bunch of regular Mega Man games, plus Mega Man X 1 through 4, where it's literally like, they forget the show don't tell kind of rule of storytelling, especially when it comes to mechanics in video games. So definitely go watch that. You'll kind of know where we're coming from. It's Sequelitis, Mega Man X, made by Ego Raptor, Aaron Hansen, Game Grumps, which is funny because whenever he plays games on Game Grumps, he skips the tutorial all the time and then ends up biting him in the ass. But when he does it on Game Grumps, it's for a bit. Like, they're being funny first. But yeah, so you get through that. Guard Scorpion, it's a good boss. You get the cool boss theme coming back, which is tight because, like, if you like those who fight further, the main themes,
yes,
they
the
reuse
music,
them throughout the game. They reuse them
music.
throughout the game, but it's not the same time every time. So like, they will use those, but they'll remix them to make it contextual, which was my favorite part. Was the music is amazing. Nobuo Uematsu comes back to do the soundtrack. He's the person that did the music for the original. He's widely regarded as like the Final Fantasy composer.
Oh, dude, yeah.
Even though he hasn't really composed anything for the games, I don't think, since like 12. And then like Yoko Shimomura
I think so,
has done a lot of the modern stuff along with Kingdom Hearts.
Man,
she is a great composer in her own right.
You know what? But playing those games, I can even see like the pacing is totally different.
Yeah.
Just by the music.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of that comes from the direction. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and say Yoko Shimomura doesn't know how to compose a video game. I mean, she literally did the entire soundtrack for Street Fighter 2 and is the reason why Street Fighter 2 has those character themes. So
it's gorgeous.
Anybody that tries to dunk on Yoko Shimomura, and she also did, the Kingdom Hearts soundtrack, which does have a good soundtrack. Anybody that tries to
not taking away.
Specifically pointed to my older brother because he was like, Yoko Shimomura is not as good as Nobuo Uematsu. What has she even done besides? I was like, this little game called Street Fighter 2, you misogynist prick. But,
the Street Fighter 2.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
So.
But no, that's not taken away. But you can just see.
And just,
you can see.
What's cool about it, though, is it's not just what's used during the game. You can also get CDs throughout the game that you can play at jukeboxes.
Yeah.
The only thing I would have liked better would have been an ability to play those songs just during the game instead of just specific jukebox points. Because Final Fantasy 15 has that. Now, granted, it took until the Royal Edition, like a year after Final Fantasy 15 was out.
Yeah, they were like, oh wait, we forgot to put that in there.
But the fact that it was in there while Final Fantasy 7 Remake was still in play, it's something I could totally, like, it would not surprise me if we get like a patch where it's like, you can play these, because it's even more remixed, even different remixed versions of music in game with new music. There's even a dude singing friggin' karaoke in the bar in Walmart, you can get, he's like, oh, Midgar, and it's just like, fucking stupid as hell, but in all the best ways. So we get done with the bombing mission.
Yeah, dude, yeah.
I apologize to anybody who actually thinks that we're going to go chapter by chapter.
It's impossible, because
we're going to be here all night. We're already like 45 minutes in, I'm pretty sure, if not a full hour.
But no, yeah, if you do get past the first part, and it basically follows it to a T
until we get the whispers.
Yeah. So until that shit starts happening.
The whispers, I don't really need to explain this. Again, if you're watching this, I'm assuming that you played the game at least a little bit. If you only played OG, you don't know what the whispers are. The whispers are basically Dementors from the Dementors from Harry Potter. I don't know why I said Dementors. I don't know why I said it in such a weird way.
Phonetics, who cares?
The weird thing. It's like
tomato, potato, who cares?
Yeah, exactly. You know, the worst thing about prison was the Dementors. But you get these little ghosty type little motherfuckers who basically their entire focus, they're like the universe's way of making sure that everything happens the way it's supposed to happen in the original game. So like Jessie doesn't get, like, she doesn't like break her ankle originally. So they basically force her to fall on her leg, so Cloud has to go on the mission with
so it pulls Jessie out and all that
to the next Mako reactor. And so that is probably one of the biggest points of contention for a lot of people. So as you're playing through the game, a lot of what happened, so you'll get,
sorry, I'll just be moving around.
No, you're good. So yeah, the first chapter is Mako Reactor 1, and even the differences come in as early as that. Once you've destroyed the reactor, you're kind of going back to Sector 7, and Cloud has a vision of Sephiroth, which a lot of people have brought up also in the original. You don't really ever see Sephiroth until like the first time you actually see a glimpse of Sephiroth is like at the end, what would be the end of this game. President Shinra's dead with Sephiroth's sword in his back.
Yeah, dude, you like see him like slay everyone in the Shinra building.
And that doesn't happen in this one in the way that we think. So we get that. You get a lot of the Cloud getting headaches and things, and the flashes of like Zack and the flashbacks to Nibelheim a lot earlier in this, which I feel like is largely meant for the people that hadn't played the game yet, so they don't have to wait so long to be like, what the heck is going on?
Yeah, what the fuck was all that,
It gives those answers early.
Yeah, I mean, the tie-ins aren't that bad at that pace,
Yeah, exactly.
Just to introduce like main themes way before, because you're not going to get that from this section. You're not going to get that from this if they didn't include all that.
Right, exactly. So you get that, and a lot of it, it's you get your side quests, and they flash out more of Midgar, more of Sector 7. You get to actually see people around. Another one of the new characters is the old landlord, the landlady.
Oh, like, yeah.
Basically,
the crazy
looks at
hair.
Cloud and tells him that he ain't shit.
Yeah, I know.
Was funny at first, but then, like, I don't know, she kind of annoyed me after a while.
Yeah, she gets kind of incessant. It's like, shut the fuck up.
I want to be like, all right. And then, so basically the game goes in chapters. There's 18 chapters total. We get to chapter 8 when we get to the second reactor. You fight Airbuster, and you meet Aerith. So you're about halfway through the game when you meet Aerith, to put it in perspective. And there's so much to do in that in between. Like, again, this is a 40 to 45 to 50 hour game if you're really looking at every nook and cranny.
Oh, yeah.
There's new missions. There's a mission that totally centers around Jessie, and you do a motorcycle fight with Roche, who's another new character who I liked. I kind of wanted him more. I wish he would have been more. after that mission where you like break into a Shinra facility and fight Roche, he kind of fucks off for the rest of the game. Like, you don't see him at all. Like, you don't kill him.
Dude,
he's just like,
I feel like he's gonna.
later.
I feel like he's gonna circle back in the next part.
There was somebody who thought that he would have been like a soldier who was like leading the troops who killed Zack, but they don't show anything like that, and it really makes me worried because Nomura also has the tendency to introduce characters like that, and then they just kind of fuck off and don't end up not really mattering.
Right.
So that's what I'm worried
about. It's just
like
a matter of convenience character where he threw it in there because they had to have a motorcycle fight.
Where it's like you don't.
It'd be super cool if they had a motorcycle fight here.
And that's the thing. It's like you fight him on foot, and you don't kill him. He just kind of goes away, and I was totally like, oh, they're gonna bring him back in the final motorcycle chase.
Yeah, that would make so much sense
for him to be like, hey, it's round 2, and they don't. At all. He does not. He just doesn't come back ever again. And that's like chapters like 3. So yeah, dude. I mean, you go through.
Dude, the coolest part, you actually. So every time I thought of this game, I was always like, there's this giant 300-foot platform. Why don't people fucking freebase or jump off of this fucking thing and parachute? And they finally incorporated that into the game. I was like, that's so awesome, because if I saw a giant platform 300 feet above me all the time, I'd be like, dude, I have to find a parachute. I'm gonna parachute off that fucking thing.
Yeah. And then so after doing the whole thing with Roche and stealing more explosive because Jessie, dramatic irony, thinks that she like killed a bunch of people, whereas Shinra
actually did it
themselves and made it seem like Avalanche's fault. We're all over the place. Look, here's the thing. There's so much to this game, and we literally, I don't want to make this a 3-hour podcast, so like I'm kind of we're going here. So Biggs, Wedge, and Jessie are in the original game. Jessie in the original game has maybe like 2 or 3 lines of dialogue and then dies along with Biggs and Wedge.
Yeah, all of them are passive.
When Reno and Root are about to drop the plate on Sector 7. Jessie in this one is the ultimate thought.
Yeah, like super
she
thirsty.
Thirsts after Cloud, and it feels unnecessary. It feels like it was more of a detriment than a credit. Because you already have like Aerith and Tifa. You get a little bit of like a love triangle there, and then certain thing happens.
Yeah, then you start
Aerith.
Making it into like a love
quadrangle.
Yeah, or whatever you want to call it.
And then it's just like it's a whole thing. What was your take on her just like thirsting? Did you think it was endearing or funny? Like I thought I was just like, okay, I thought she has a personality.
I like the personality, but it was, they could have dialed it back about 0.5%, because if you already know the game enough, he's not even going to play into it at all anyway.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It'd be different if it were a dynamic that could have been expanded on, but it wouldn't be. So you know what I mean? At that point, is there no point to like draw it out that hard? Though it is entertaining. It is very entertaining, because he is cringing every time she has something to say.
No, yeah, it was fun. It was just, it would have been nice to, and you get a little bit with like her family. You find out that she was an actress at the Gold Saucer, and dropped everything to come home and join up with Avalanche because her dad was a, her dad was a maintenance guy in a Mako reactor, and like went into a coma because of an industrial accident.
And then he got Mako poisoning.
And they say like she thinks his soul is trapped between Earth and the live stream, which I feel like would be a good point of dramatic irony, because like later in the game you go back to Midgar.
Yep.
Partly for like the Hojo shit with Vincent and the others. Or even post game, it would be nice to like her dad wakes up or whatever. They just do
something sentimental,
Yeah, because that's probably the storytelling beat they're going to go to. Like they're probably not going to introduce that and then just not resolve it, or they won't resolve it. Because again, Tetsuya Nomura. he's great at designing characters, but the man he just can't write a fucking story. I'm sorry, he just can't.
No, dude,
like,
it's just like if it ends up over
Kingdom Hearts,
fucking
where they literally like Kingdom Hearts is just like, oh, it's time travel now.
Well, yeah, I mean, if it ends
That's
up over
kind of
5
what they do with
hours,
this too.
you know, like you have like when you have big stories like this, usually you have like dedicated teams that like sit there and like try to find all the plot holes. Like you have 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 people
and
working on plot hole errors. Like, okay, we can't say that or do that because that would fuck up this entire section.
It really, you can tell, like with things that he's made that are so popular, that everybody's just like, just let him do it.
Yeah, and it's like, well,
and it's one of those things where it's like, writers, as somebody who has wanted to be a writer in his day, writers left unchecked. Writers need editors to keep them in check. That's a great example that a lot of people go to is Dragon Ball Z.
Oh, dude,
the Buu saga was Akira Toriyama. Basically, they were like, we're not even going to hold you back in the editing. You just fucking go for it.
Just rein it in.
That's why the Buu saga was this long and drawn out and overly done. Whereas when he had these tight editing beats, apparently he hated his editors so much that he would base the villains on them, and that's literally how we got Frieza and Cell, allegedly, from like this thing that I heard. It was on this one like Shonen Jump like thing. Like discussion rather. It wasn't Shonen Jump. It was Team 4-Star. That's what it was. That's what was talking about that. So I trust those cats. They definitely know a lot more about Dragon Ball than I do. But I'm trying to make sure I have my facts. I don't want to be one of those like, I heard from this place type people.
Well,
half the time that shit's false anyway.
Hearsay always happens. It's not like you're saying like this is facts. This is I will die on the cross for this.
I want to be able to at least have a source. You know what I mean? But using those as examples, you can kind of see it. You kind of see it.
Oh yeah.
You kind of see it. Because you can tell that he doesn't want it to be one-to-one from the original, which I think was nice because it gives people a reason to go back and play the original. Like if it was just one-to-one, it would just be like, all right, well, you may as well just make it turn-based too, because all you're doing is just doing the same thing over again with just a new coat of paint.
Nice. It's nice to have fresh perspectives.
So,
what I think happened was it got too watered, too much water in it.
Yeah.
Because you have 40 hours to make a 5-hour piece.
Yeah.
So take exactly what was fucking there, and you will have to twist parts of it because then you have to make it different. I get that.
Yeah, and that's a lot of, and some of the changes that they made, like they gave Heidegger like a bit of a bigger role.
Oh yeah,
which I thought was nice.
However, it's not to say that they did it wrong.
The detriment of that was like we don't see Rufus as much as I would have liked.
Oh yeah,
like
Rufus was like a big thing,
and so
I was like really hoping
Shinra as much at the end as I would have enjoyed.
And him 1-to-1 battle and him being weak as shit really kind of peeved me.
Literally, with that fight, it's like when you do assess, which is this game's like, it's basically it's Libra, but like on crack.
You read your opponent. Yeah.
You just read your opponent, but like it's literally you don't have to use it every time you want to see their stats. Like you use it once, and then all you have to do is just hit the bring it up. Which took me way longer to learn that was the thing than I would like. I just have been using assess the entire time. It's like, a special attack while his guard is down will cause him to stagger. Look, when he's reloading, use Braver.
Done.
That's what it is.
Fried.
That's what it is. You could do what I did, and you can just dodge roll until you get your limit break, and then he dies in one hit from your limit break.
Yep.
Because the fight's kind of a joke. Like, it's fun. He has cool moves and
Rufus,
cool animations.
But he's fucking Rufus. Like, I remember in the first game how hard that was.
Fight's easy.
Like, that should have been something way bigger.
But, so going through, just kind of hitting the beats on the story progression. We meet up with Aerith. You fight Reno.
Yeah, Reno's a badass. And it catches you off guard.
Reno's fight.
His timing was hard. I will give you that.
I died to Reno a couple times.
Well, and they catch you off guard because you go from playing with all 3 of them to down to 1 player. And so when your materia is all jacked up, you're like, well, shit. Say,
a lot of those moments, like the Reno and Root fight on the plate, like right before they drop the Sector 7 plate and a few other areas, it'll give you the option in the lower left corner it'll have the square button. It'll be like, okay, you like if you hold
menu. Menu.
So it'll let you bring up the menu at the end of the cutscene. That way, if it's
if
like,
you
oh,
play
crap,
this game,
boss
use
fight's
it.
coming in. It's like,
Yeah,
all right, cool. We're gonna stop, pull the menu up, let you reassess, like kind of redo everything, and then you can get in it. That was nice, as opposed to just being like, well, you should have prepared earlier, idiot.
Yeah, you should have known. You should have known this boss fight was coming, you fool.
Yeah, which, I mean, again, you probably should have at some points, but it is nice. It is nice that at least gives you that option. Speaking of that, you never get to choose your own party in this game.
No, that was kind of a bug for me.
I thought they would have done that when you get all 4, because there's 4 party members.
Yeah.
Cloud, Tifa, Barret, Aerith. And, which that's how it is at this point in the game, in the original. But you don't get to choose your party members. It does it by story progression. Certain people leave, certain people enter. When you do get to have a full party of 3, certain people get taken out the game or just go do other shit. So that's something that, but a lot of the time you'll have 2 party members. It's very rare you'll have 3. There's like Cloud, Tifa, and Barret, and then the Mako Reactor. And then after that, it's just you, it's just Cloud. I say you, like it's fucking Link or something, where it's like, it's Cloud and Aerith for a while until Wall Market. It's literally just Cloud and Aerith, because like right as you're about to go back to Sector 7 after helping her, and then you have to do all the stuff with the kids. They have the remnants of Sephiroth and like cloaks. They're the zombie dudes.
Yeah, those creepy
which
freaking
we see in
opioid
addicts, we don't see
crazy looking bastards.
Nibelheim. You do see one in OG Final Fantasy VII. It's just he's not in the cloak and everything. In Sector 6, you go in and there's the dude. They're like, this guy's drunk. And literally the dude's just like, I don't feel so good. And you see, they're like, oh, he has a number 2 tattooed on his arm, which none of us knew what that meant, but now it makes a lot more sense, because we're used to seeing those dudes in cloaks from Nibelheim, which they made that a lot more clear, which I like. The stuff with kids, Moggy the Moogle, which the Moogle shop where you get the medals.
Dude,
I thought was
cool.
It's
always a good throwback.
The mini games where you have to break the boxes at that point when you're like with Aerith.
Dude, yeah, that was like actually a lot more fun.
I really enjoy the other weapons as well that you can get.
Yeah, there was quite a few weapons.
All those weapons were in the original, which I thought was cool.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least
what was your main?
Swords were.
What was your main?
I changed throughout the game. Once I got Hard Edge, I mostly used Hard Edge as far as Cloud goes.
Yeah, see, I stuck with Hard Edge quite a bit. I did
because when you get Twin Stinger, by the time you get Twin Stinger, you have Aerith back. So like you don't really need a magic build on Cloud.
Yeah, that's what all that
so
much. Like I would.
Twin Stinger's good, like middle of the road build.
Yeah, I think I would bounce between the Hard Edge and I don't remember what the other one was.
Because like Mythril Saber was also good for like mage Cloud.
Yeah,
builds.
I think it was that one. I think it was that one.
I used Purple Pain and Metal Knuckles mostly for Tifa. I used the EKG cannon wasn't bad. I mostly used Big Bertha.
Big Bertha's the way to go, man.
Because the thing about Barret that I thought was interesting is you get melee weapons for Barret. You get the Wrecking Ball and you get the claw weapon, which you get those in OG.
Yeah, you
Final Fantasy VII, but in OG Final Fantasy VII, Barret being a long-range gunner, when it's turn-based, doesn't matter because you don't have higher altitudes. Like you don't have like you don't have enemies that are higher up. You would use Barret's gun to get to.
It's
kind of his gimmick.
It's basically like
when things are high up, it's like, switch to Barret.
Yeah. It's definitely like going from 2D to 3D at that pace.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just an aspect, because it's like, well, shit. You throw a melee weapon on Barret, you lose your distance.
I don't remember what the weapon names are for Aerith because they're all the same thing to me.
Yeah, they're all rods.
They're all just rods.
Rod, scepter, whatever.
And it's just like, get Aerith's magic stat as high as it'll go.
Yeah,
her magic
just make
like 500.
Dude.
She'll
just OP.
She'll just destroy everything. She sets up the aura where she can double cast, and literally you just wreck everybody's asshole.
Dude.
Like, yeah, that's what I like. Is like every character pulls their weight when they're in the party. Like every character has a function. There wasn't anybody where I was just like in OG, I didn't use Kate Sith. I didn't use Sid all that much in OG. Like it was mostly like Cloud, Tifa, and Vincent is who I was using.
Dude, yeah. I mean, that would make the most sense. Yeah.
So it was nice that everybody like seemed to pull their weight. Like it gave you reasons to use the other characters and to assign.
And it was very balanced, you know.
So I definitely appreciated that because I don't want to. I was kind of one of the things I was worried with, like the modernization aspect when they first announced it before we even saw any gameplay. I had this worry in the back of my mind that I was like, oh, they're only going to let you play as Cloud. Because that's what they did in Final Fantasy 15. You only play as Noctis until a year later when we get the Royal Edition, and they were like, hey, you can change between party members. And I'm like, cool, it's a Final Fantasy game. I should have had that in the first place.
Right, like that's the staple.
Like literally you go through, like if you don't get the DLC, you play as Noctis unless you're playing the DLC. So, but yeah, that's so wild. You go through, we're just going to slam through the chapters because I want to get to the end.
We stuck at this.
So yeah, I know. Well, again, there's so much here that like if we went chapter by chapter, this would literally be a 5-hour discussion.
Yeah,
this would the rate at which we jump off and on tangents.
Oh man!
So if you're listening to this and you're following along, I'm proud of you.
Dude, we both
you're probably just listening to this.
We probably both owe you a shot at this point.
We're probably. Oh yeah. So we need a shot at this point? Or shot at this point?
No. Someone we owe whoever's listening this long a shot.
Yeah, let me tell you. I don't even know who would listen to this. Like, who gives that much of a crap about Final Fantasy 7 Remake? Listen to our stupid asses. We owe Cat Scott a shot, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, yeah.
She'll listen to at least 5 minutes of it.
Yeah, she'll be like, hey, you guys are funny, huh?
I could totally, see that. I guarantee you, if we had her on this, she would just be talking about we need to do a Final Fantasy 10 discussion because she could go off on that all kinds.
Blitzball.
That's one that I never actually played Final Fantasy X all the way through. I played it.
Dude,
I never beat it.
One day when you play it and you get to Luca and you play Blitzball,
like
you'll understand.
I know what's in it. Like I got that far. Like I got to I want to be a Blitzball. Like I've gotten. I just never beat it. I got through the first half.
It's so much fun.
I never.
Well, and at the end of the game, you get to come back and you can go back to Luca and you can actually play again. And then it's like way better.
Shit. We're talking about Final Fantasy 7. So you get through. So Wall Market. My favorite part of the game.
Oh man,
was Wall Market. My favorite part of Midgar and the OG was Wall Market. I'm so glad they kept it. They got rid of the quest where you get the dress and you get the wig. Those things are there. It branches off. You can actually get 2 different sets of side quests. You can either get a set from Madam M or you can get a set from Chocobo Sam. You have to replay the chapter because you get a chapter select at the end of the game.
Yep.
You have to replay the chapter and do different things in order to get the different side quests. Chocobo Sam's side quests involve you going to the gym and doing the squats, and involve you going and getting the dressmaker's son, or the dressmaker from his son. He tells you, go to the bar and get my dressmaker father, and you go and talk to him, and then he goes back.
Yep.
So they don't make those forced for you to get the items, which I kind of miss. It would have been nice, because it kind of makes those things not really matter as much, even though they're still there. But there are certain contextual things as well. If you didn't do all the cutscenes, or if you didn't do all the side quests in Chapter 8, then you don't get as good a dress for Aerith.
Right.
If you don't do a certain amount of side quests, you don't get as good a dress for Cloud. And then you have to do all the side quests in Chapter 3. You get a special scene with Tifa where she's like, let's go on a date. What should I wear? And you get 3 dialogue options. What you pick there is what dress Tifa has. And there's a trophy to see all 9 options.
9 freaking dresses.
All 3 for Cloud, all 3 for Aerith, all 3 for Tifa. My first time going through, since I did literally everything, it was my first time playing, I did every cutscene. I don't know why I keep saying cutscene. Every side quest.
Right.
To see the cutscenes.
Right.
I got the best Cloud dress. I got the best Aerith dress. And there's not really a best for Tifa. It's just depending on what you pick. I picked something exotic for Tifa. So that is she's wearing a short dress, and it's very like Chinese inspired. It's not the Chun-Li one. You pick something sporty, she gets the Chun-Li.
I did the sporty
mature,
one. Okay, so yeah, dude, I did the same thing, and I ended up with the Chun-Li fucking.
Yeah. So if you pick something sporty, that's the Chun-Li look. Pick something exotic, it's kind of like a Chinese, because like Chinese like characters, and it's kind of like what you'd expect out of that kind of a dress. And then if you pick something mature, she's wearing the dress that she's wearing in the original, where she's wearing like the blue kind of like satin or whatever. So it gives you, it gives that replayability factor. The honeybee inn is still there, which I like.
That's you know what, that is such a great take.
Where you get...
So them introducing Andrea and like making that the whole twist from you basically instead of masquerading in a woman's dress for...
Where Andrea's just like, I'm gonna make you beautiful. We're gonna get your ass in the fucking Don Corneo's mansion, bitch. Like
they sidestep the awkward sexism of the original, but they do it with such grace. They do it with such wonderful grace.
It doesn't feel forced. Really it's oddly inclusive, which
it's very wonderful.
And it has a cool like QTE segment where like Cloud's dancing and he's like getting it. And depending on how you do, Aerith will react differently during the performance. Because they profile on stage and make them dance. So it's like you're not doing so well. She's just like, yeah, I guess. But if you're like getting it, like she's with like, all the honeybee in, like go-go dancers, and they're just like...
She's like doing everything short of throwing money at you.
It's literally like a Magic Mike segment. Like she's losing her fucking for mind. Real. Like all of the girls that are like sitting in the booth with her, they're just like collectively splooshing over Cloud, like hitting it. Twerking his ass on the stage to get that dress. There's also some fun moments, side questy type things, dialogue things with Johnny, Yuri Lowenthal's character, who just I know some people who were annoyed by him. I thought he was hilarious, even before I knew it was Yuri Lowenthal.
He's kind of intended to be like passively annoying just by how he comes in and how he's always running around and being an asshole.
It wasn't overbearing though, I guess. Like there's some characters that can be annoying where it's just like, we get it, shut up, Jesse.
Yeah.
But
pretty much.
And I like Jesse. Like I like Jesse's character. I thought the whole mission with hers was cute. It's just was one of those things where it's like, all right, I guess. It just felt forced something with her.
Yeah,
it didn't feel forced with Johnny. So Johnny was, felt pretty cool. Madam M, also, I really loved her characterization.
I loved how stiff, how very backboned she was.
Yes, and then because in order to get the money for Aerith's dress, you have to
win the tournament,
the Coliseum, which was not in the original. The closest thing to it in the original, I would say, is the Battle Square in the Gold Saucer.
Yeah.
Where it's, series of fights, you get money, and that's where they have Hell House as a boss.
Yeah.
The Cloud starts off like hating Cloud and Aerith, and then like by the end of it, they're like sending flowers. Like every time you go out of the waiting room, there's like a
yelling very racy things at them.
Yeah, then they're just like, fucking Aerith, step on me, and I'm just like, fucking
whoa, hold up.
Bud. And I love how they throw shade at Aerith so much in this. Like, they're just like, oh, she's very plain looking.
Dude, everyone is just like bashing how she looks. And I'm like, you look very homely.
It's like, ugly. Yeah, they're just like, you're homely and you're plain. Yeah. And they're like,
you look like you stepped straight off the hippie bus.
Yeah, and then all the while they're like, oh yeah, Tifa, she's fucking.
Yeah, I mean, and Tifa. Yeah.
Which same? I wanted to knock my head off my shoulders.
Oh my god, Tifa.
But yeah, dude, and that's the whole thing where it's just like, and there was also that whole thing. They're like, oh, they nerfed Tifa. When they showed the first reveal, they were like, they made Tifa's titty smaller, and they're like,
it's like, no. Whoa, dude,
hang on. Gave her the proportions of a real. They gave her the proportions of a real life woman. Like in the original, she had giant polygon Laura Croft titties, and this one is like, she still got some. She's well endowed.
Oh yeah,
it's not like it's not like obscene. They actually made her look like a person instead of a Rob Liefeld fucking drawing.
Rob Liefeld drawing. That's pretty accurate. It's just like, you can't always win, and like if you're gonna bitch about that takeaway, then just shut up.
I mean, look at this. Does this look nerfed? to you guys?
No.
Does this look nerfed? Does that look nerfed?
Like she's still rocking at least a double.
Exactly.
Like, just chill out.
She's still. I mean, and that's the thing is like everybody looks how you would expect them to look. Everybody sounds.
Yeah.
That's what I like about this, and I love Madam M. Also, I thought she was. Depending on how much money you give her for a hand massage,
how nice she is, yeah.
Cloud gets different like reactions where it's like in the if you give her one gil, she basically just like breaks his hand. He's just like
then like 10,000 gil or whatever, she basically like gives you an orgasm.
Yeah, and he's just like, and every time like it switches control to Aerith, and you watch Cloud come out, and she's like, "Everything okay?" And he's like,
oh, yeah, right.
I don't want to talk about it. And then if you're in the middle of the road, he's like. Doesn't believe that she really did anything, and she's like, flex your muscles a few times, and he just like flexes his hand. He goes, whoa. And then like you just watch him for 30 seconds. Aerith's like, are you okay? And she goes, what are you doing? He just goes, flexing. So, like you still get those comedic moments from Cloud, and Wall Market is definitely where the comedy shines. Because it's definitely the more comedic part of that.
Well, I mean, it's like the Vegas of the entire game.
It really is, yeah. It's
you know, very colorful sleazy, lights, very crazy
like red light
nightlife.
District type of thing. So
and then you have like the giant palace of a Corneo.
Oh yeah, they can, and then the gym where you do the squatting contest. They brought back the squatting.
Oh, that's such a pain.
Which I thought was hilarious. And then when you go there later in the game, you can do a pull-up competition, and it's Tifa doing pull-ups, which I thought was cool that they like it was more than just that. But yeah, man, and then you go in Don Corneo's mansion, and then there's like the doorman, his name was Leslie, they actually gave him a backstory.
Right.
Which I thought was interesting. That was also, I kind of felt like it was unnecessary, but it didn't feel like it was in the way. It was just like, all right.
Yeah, it was just like, shit, like, that adds 10 minutes. Let's do it.
Was just padding. It just felt like fluff. Right. It wasn't like, oh, I hate this. Why are we doing this? It was like, this is very clearly padding. Exactly.
Yeah, it wasn't super dry like, to add it in.
If you took it out, it wouldn't matter. We'll put it that way.
Right, but it also does kind of allude later down the road when you end up at the end of that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When you end up at when you come back for Corneo or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, after the plate drops when they're about to go the Shinra building. Because he's the one that gives you the grappling hook as opposed to in the original game where it's like, we have grappling hooks, we just got to get batteries for them. And then you go like find a battery and then
oh my god, I know, it's awful.
And they actually made that area into a level as well. So as we're going through, we did Corneo Mansion. You do the whole thing. They have the
we got to get it together.
I'm working on it. They have it. So they spring the trap, and they give you the same dialogue where it's like, why would a villain give you his plans? And it's like, well, because he knows he's already won, blah, blah, blah. You get dropped in the sewers. You fight Abs, the giant rat monster. Who's
actually fairly easy.
I died to a lot.
Oh really? Yeah, I mean, like
he would do the water thing where he would like make the water like flood the stage, and I would always just like I would be like, all right, I'm gonna heal, and right as the heal would be about to pop off, I'd get hit by it in like all 3 years.
Oh yeah, it's all about timing. A lot of this game is just all about timing.
It really is. And then there's the ghost, the train graveyard with the ghosts, which train graveyard, they kind of show it, but it's not a story beat. Like you get a whole thing with Aerith as a kid.
Yeah, dude.
You fight, not only do you fight a giant ghost, you also fight the Grim Reaper
chariot bastard,
which apparently is a rare enemy in the original.
In the original, it's just it was a fucking pain in the ass in the original.
Super rare. Which has like the one thing that's actually worth stealing from an enemy.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Because you get a rod for Aerith from it. You get steel materia. That's literally the only thing that I can think of in the entire game that's actually worth using steel materia on, because everybody else only has like Phoenix Downs and grenades.
Yeah, like bullshit.
So steel was largely not worth it except for that one thing, which I wasn't really a fan of. Steel felt useless. Enemy skill was useless as well. There are 4 enemy skills that you can get in the game.
In the whole goddamn game.
In the whole game.
You gotta be kidding me.
One of them you can only get in an optional boss fight. At the end, in the in Chadley's like Chapter 17, the Shinra Battle Simulator.
Oh yeah,
there's a fight,
dude, yeah.
one of like that you can only do on hard mode, where you fight
and that's the only way you get it.
Fight 2 bosses. You fight Bahamut again, and then you fight Malboro, the big plant mouth that is in like every Final Fantasy game. It uses bad breath, and you use that. So you have to get to there in order to get the trophy. Get the 4th.
Yeah, you have to beat the entire game to get something.
So it's really just not, and it's not worth it at that point. So that's another thing that I felt like was kind of like you only put it in because it's in the original, but they didn't really. You could tell they didn't really give a shit. Because the other enemy skills you get don't matter.
No.
There's one I used where it was from one of the ice dragons, where it gives you like an ice aura. It's basically a free elemental material.
Dude,
that's basically.
I'm gonna be honest. I didn't use enemy skill at all. I didn't even touch it.
That's the one thing I used. The other one you get is aura drain from one of the. I don't even know if that's what it's called, but basically where the ghosts like start sapping your HP.
Oh yeah.
You get that, and then there's one that's I think just like a defense buff. But you go through that, and then the train graveyard with all that leads directly into where Reno and Rude drop the pillar. They drop Sector 7 pillar.
Yeah, and shit is going down.
Wedge doesn't die. Wedge survives.
Somehow.
Wedge survives like 5 fucking deaths in this game.
Yeah, dude.
Biggs dies.
The boy who cried wolf.
Jesse dies. So we assume.
Yeah.
And then everybody in Sector 7 has time to escape. Like Aerith and Wedge are like, we gotta evacuate everybody. Aerith goes and saves Marlene, and then that's how she gets captured by Shinra.
Yep.
Everybody pretty much gets out of Sector 7. Like nobody dies.
Yeah, not that we know
Sector
of.
7 slums, which in the original game they're just like, we're dropping it. And everybody in Sector 7 dies. Like so, the stakes are a lot higher there. Whereas in this one, it's like we evacuated everybody in time.
Yeah, dude,
like, okay.
I'm sorry, but like games have become very soft in that aspect in this day and age. Yeah. Where it's like, dude, no, let the enemies kill a couple hundred people, and that's going to give you a lot of motivation.
We already know that they don't give a shit about the people that live in Midgard. We already know that they're willing to kill everybody just to get what they want, which is the promised land, which is the whole Genova thing. Yeah.
And they don't even have to sugarcoat it.
Yeah, they really don't. But yet they do. And Wedge survives like 5 different things. So we do all that. They drop the plate. And they're just like, oh my god. They blame it on Avalanche.
Of course, everything is blamed on them.
They like Shinra is even more of a big brother figure in this.
It's basically how they basically took this game and then made it the playbook for 9/11.
Basically, yeah. I mean, that's literally like a lot of. It's a very much like. I mean, yeah, that's
kind of fucked up. Sorry, that was a little too far.
No, but I mean, that's kind of like what it is, where it's like an inside job type thing, except it actually was. Mm-hmm. So, and then you fight Reno and Rude at the same time, because you fight Rude earlier, and we already fought Reno earlier. I liked that boss fight. I thought it was fun. And
duration's kind of a hot minute. It's very good, very in-depth. Timing is key.
It was a really well fun boss fight. I liked it because
I got a real quick question.
Anything different than in their individual fights, except for like a few group attacks. So you already know their patterns, and now it's just you're fighting them at the same time.
Right. So it's just like who do you dive onto first?
Could have been laziness. Could have been you're gonna fight them both. But it makes sense in context. I like.
Yeah. See, so like, which materia did you attach Magnify to?
I largely, unless I was going up against groups of enemies that I knew were weak to a certain element, like when you're fighting the bandits, I would attach it to fire because they're weak against fire, so you can take them out quicker. I largely used it for barrier, and I largely used it for cure.
Yeah, see, I was a purely defensive guy. Because I was like, man, as long as I'm alive, I can keep attacking.
Yeah.
But I've seen a lot of people actually use it way more offensively.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I largely just use it for fire because this gets the same thing. If you play Kingdom Hearts 3, you'll be comfortable using magic here because fire is OP as fuck, just like it is in Kingdom Hearts 3. And a lot of abilities from Kingdom Hearts 3 have different names, but they're in this. You can upgrade your weapons. and you get certain abilities that are similar to, I mean, they've been, I say Kingdom Hearts 3 because it's the most previous installment of a Square Enix game of this type.
Right.
So, for example, there's one in Kingdom Hearts 3 called Full MP Blast. It's a different name here, but it's basically you do more damage on your first spell if you have full MP when you use it.
Right.
And then there's also it's MP Rage or Damage Siphon, where you get MP back for the amount of damage you take. So if you're familiar with the abilities in Kingdom Hearts 3, you'll be familiar with some of the abilities here, and then it has an upgrade system similar to, I would say, Final Fantasy 13, where you upgrade certain weapons and certain traits. But it's weapon to weapon, and you can pay Chadley, my other favorite new addition, who is a Shinra employee. He's an R&D. Well, he's not an employee. He's an intern, actually. He's an intern trying to like take it out from within. So he like makes materia for you, and that's how you get some materia. You have to. I like also, while we're on the subject, making boss fights in order to get summon materia.
Oh, dude, yeah, that was nice.
I thought that was fun. I would have liked some more summons, but it's cool that they're gonna leave stuff for the next games. You fight Shiva, Fat Chocobo,
Leviathan,
and Bahamut, and then Ifrit is given to you. You could find Chocomog just like in the field in the turn off the lamps.
Dude.
Again, if you played it, you're gonna know what you're talking about. If you didn't play it, you probably already turned this off by now.
Yep.
And that's honestly what I'm gonna say. If you haven't played the remake yet, don't fucking sit here listening to us talk about it. Go play the remake and come back. Or just don't even come back. Just go play the remake. I don't give a shit what you do as long as
I'm gonna drink either way.
I'm gonna drink my Mako reactor either way. Yeah, because I got nothing to fucking prove to you people. I got 25 other videos on this channel with other podcasts of regular stuff you can go listen to.
Nice.
And we're also now on Spotify, Breaker, and Google Podcasts, courtesy Anchor.
Oh yeah.
If you want the audio only versions. But yeah, dude. And I like what they did with Summon Materia, where basically Summon Materia comes in as more of a, like, you get like an alternate party member.
Yeah.
As opposed to just like one and you're done. Ifrit definitely comes in handy with the Abzu fight.
Oh yeah.
Big sewer rat with the Master Splinter fight.
Master Splinter.
and then Shiva. I use Shiva a lot, and I use Leviathan a lot. Those were the ones I think I used the most. Just because you can't get Bahamut until you've done every other battle report challenge for Chadley.
You basically have to beat the game. You have to beat the game and then go back through on hard to get Bahamut.
Essentially. I mean, I was able to get it on normal.
Well, I mean, you have to go through as normal.
But, yeah,
get all the stuff, and then
also,
like,
one of the challenges is you have to fully upgrade all of the 7 base spell materia. So fire, blizzard, thunder, poison, cure, barrier, and like time. And that's a lot easier post game because after you beat the game, you get double experience and AP gain in every battle. So that makes everything a lot easier.
If you didn't wisely use the AP up materia, you're screwed.
If you get the AP up materia, you get in the story something called pedometer, and it says when you get to 5,000 steps, something amazing happens.
Right.
It's AP up. It becomes AP up. I don't know why they did that. I guess something to be like,
dude.
Again, more padding. But like literally, if you equip that as soon as you get it, just the normal progression of the game, you'll get to that amount of steps pretty quickly.
Oh yeah, because you're in like a pretty open area.
You get that in Aerith's house. Like you're still in Sector 6. Like you haven't even gotten to Wall Market yet.
No, yeah, when you just run around.
So, and there's enough to do in Wall Market and enough to see that like it's insane. But yeah, so they drop the plate. So and then you do damage control. You go back through Sector 7 looking for people, and then you find one of Wedge's cats because they make you think the plate dropped on Wedge and killed him, but he survives once again.
Right, he dropped in a hole.
Tetsuya Nomura must really just fucking love Wedge.
Yeah, I don't even know why,
he gets dropped in a hole, and then you find him, and then there's this underground research facility, which you don't even know about really in OG Final Fantasy VII. You learn about it in like Dirge of Cerberus and Crisis Core.
Yeah, that's definitely
because that's where like Cloud and Zack were like experimenting on, I guess.
Yeah, they were all put together
for like 4 years. Which we get in like the flashbacks and shit. So you go and save Wedge once again. You take him back to Aerith's mom, because Aerith's mom just becomes like the babysitter, because like Wedge is just like chilling, and then like she babysits Marlene, and it's a whole thing, and then eventually you go back to Wall Market. You do some more stuff. You get to see Wall Market during the day this time. You get the whole thing where you go back to the sewers with Leslie. You find out that his fiance was one of the girls chosen by Don Corneo, and that's where he fits into all this. You fight Abs again, and then he gives you the grappling hooks, and you go up to the top of the plate.
Yep, you go save Aerith.
You go through the top of the plate, and then you get to the Shinra building. You go through the Shinra building, and then you get the option of doing the elevator or doing the stairs, just like in the original game.
Oh, and that's clowning, dude. Going up the stairs is hilarious.
Much like in the original game, I chose the stairs. The characters complain the whole time. You get to see what floor everybody's on. Of course, Tifa makes it to the top before everybody else because she's Tifa. The music changes as you get further up the stairs, and you lose the ability to run. Cloud actually gets tired like halfway up. You can only walk.
Yeah, dude.
The
You're
music
basically
gets all
crawling.
weird and distorted. It really gives you the feeling like Cloud's about to have a heat stroke. Like, you really get the feeling like he's about to pass out.
Yeah, it's super funny, too.
It's another example of the humor that's still intact from the original and the care that went into the game. Because if they left out the stair scene, people would be rioting.
Right, and this is kind of where it started for me once you get to the top and you do the whole we're going to fight you thing, but then holy shit, he's not even here. And then Sephiroth has not waxed everyone in that area. I was like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
What is going on? There's not blood trails everywhere. Because like I remember that being like a really distinct thing for me in the original game.
And that's the
being
thing.
Being a young impressionable kid, I was like, "Oh my god, it's like a massacre."
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. That's where they change it. It's blood trails in the original because there's a whole massacre. In the remake, it's like purple goop, and it's just like basically Jenova broke out, and that's like Genova's trail that she's like leaving behind because she broke out of her cage. Which and everybody was like, "Oh."
That's weak.
Apparently, it's not a whole fucking massacre. It's just she just left a trail of goo this time. So
I don't know, man. Whole thing. I'm all for the hold on to the original story because like yes, it's awful and ugly, but like so is the entire premise of the Shinra company.
Well, and that's what makes me wonder. Like, was that supposed to be a trail of blood that Jenova left behind because it broke out? And we just misread the situation? Like, that's where I'm, like, kind of rethinking. And I really want to go back and play the original again after having played the remake. It's on sale. It was on sale last I checked. I don't know if the sale's still going on.
Yeah, it's still pretty cheap, I think.
I think it's like $9.
Like, I was going to say, it's like under $15.
So I might just re-download it because I have the original discs. But my PS3 controllers don't work, and I don't have to get my PS2 or my PS1 out. So I may just re-download it. Because on the downloaded version of the original, you can also speed it up. You can turn off random encounters.
Oh, yeah.
So if you just want to like play the story and you don't want to like grind out forever, then it makes it easier to do. But yeah, and then in the building, you spy on stuff. You go through the building. They make you go through this like history of Shinra, like tourism experience, which I thought was cool.
Yeah, it's awful.
I thought it was funny. I thought it was hilarious.
I mean, it's like because
because
it's comical.
They have holograms of like Heidegger and Palmer and Scarlet, like the heads, and Reeve, like the heads of Shinra, and like their personalities come out because like Scarlet is like, this recording has not yet been done, and then you get to Heidegger and he's like, we are the best military ever. And then Palmer is just like bumbling because he's an idiot. He's just like, oh, what do I read? I read this? Somebody give me cue cards. What do I do? And then Reeve is like very like taking it seriously, like, okay, so I'm gonna explain to you everything we do because
this
Reeve's
is
like
urban planning, you know.
Reeve's like the one person at Shinra that actually gives a shit about people.
And he has a fucking conscience and like a moral compass.
That's why he builds Kate Sith. He essentially becomes a party member.
Yep.
To like help you save the world. Spoilers again.
And then Hojo's like, you're wasting my time because you're insignificant.
And then, I love but also hate how they did Hojo because like they made Hojo very much just like the stereotypical mad scientist. Like He's all like skin and bones and old. He's just like,
dude. And he's such an arrogant prick.
That dude fucks Vincent Valentine. Like in the original, like Lucretia, like kind of betrays Vincent and like gets with Hojo. And it's like, bro.
Yeah, like
decrepit old fuck. Steals Vincent. I'm a literal vampire with a gun. Valentine's chick. Well, he was a member of the Turks. Like, we gotta remember, Vincent was a member of the Turks. He was a badass.
Badass.
Before he was a vampire. But we're not worried about Vincent yet. We're gonna get to him part 2. Right now, we're still in the Shinner building. We get the scene with Scarlet. What did you think of the scene with Scarlet? Where like they show her, you get it as you get to the top of the stairs.
Yeah, dude, where she's got her feet up on the guy. She's got her
feet up on like a soldier.
Just kills they're making the manufactured material or whatever, and she's just chilling. And they're like, "Well, it's not gonna."
All hanging out.
Yeah, and she's just like, "Well, fuck him, you'll die," and then just walks out, and they all die.
And then the dude is like crawling after her, like he doesn't even stand up. He's just like a little like pet. And it's just like, and again, it's one of those where it's like they didn't overly child friendly it or whatever to be like, oh, huh. like Scarlet, she's wearing a very low cut dress. She got big old titties herself. That's gonna be a great scene because in the original, she's the chick that tries to like put Tifa in that gas chamber, and then Tifa just slaps the shit out of her.
Oh, dude, yeah.
And like that's the one like you get to take control of Tifa. It's like press square to beat the shit out of Scarlet.
Yeah, it's like,
and Tifa just backhands next week. So I'm really hoping for that scene because that's gonna be cool to see Tifa like just like get her chance just to smack this hoe in the next week. Just because I'll watch Tifa do anything, man. They could let Tifa fucking punch a wall, and I'd be like, yeah, girl power.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't like super bored with that part where you get to see all those people, but it was just like I was like, okay, you can kind of allude to what everybody does here after the first.
That's also true, yeah.
However far you've gotten into the game, so
yeah.
How far do you need to extend this 15-minute section?
Yeah. And so speaking of that, we keep going through. You get the theater area with like the dome, which is actually Bugenhagen's thing in the original. Red 13 grandfather gives you that in the original. They put that here, which I feel like made sense because they're like, hey, we're gonna show you, like, basically it's the exposition. I call it the exposition room because they go in and that's where they explain the ancients and Mako and the live stream. And then Sephiroth hijacks it and is like, I'm going to blow up fucking planet, bitch.
And here's a meteor, bro.
So then you get out of it, and then you meet the mayor of Midgar, who you find out is a member of Avalanche. Because in this, Avalanche is a giant organization.
Corporation. Yeah, it's not just like 5 people.
Being your characters. And then, so that's where you go meet the dude. That's where they introduce also the battle simulator. Chadley comes back and he's like, hey, remember me? I work here. And it's like, oh, bet. And then
like, give me all the loot. Let's go.
Bazinga. And then you go through some more. You get to the top, and then you finally rescue Aerith. You get a bunch of shit with Hojo that's just, again, more padding. Where you have to like, go. Where you go, you have to like open the doors. And he's like, oh, I'm going to put you through my maze, Batman! And he basically just turned into the Riddler.
Full Riddler, Joker kind of thing.
He's just like, you fell for the old fake... oh, ha, gotcha!
Like, you're definitely not in mortal danger because you've destroyed everything up to this point, but I'm still going to throw rocks at you.
Fell for the old fake Joker gag, Batman! But it's just, it just becomes a whole thing. And then you finally get out, you get to the top, you get to, like, Cloud has a whole, like, oh, I'm going to pass out because Genova, because Soldier. And then you go to Aerith's room, you find out more about the Whispers, find out basically the Whispers guide Aerith, and she's like, oh, yeah, they talk to me, and they tell me what to do, and they guide me where to go. And then that's where you start to learn more about how they're, like, arbiters of fate, much like how the planet has the life stream, where the planet can defend itself, so can the universe. And
then at this point, the entire story devolves.
And that's where it goes full fucking Kingdom Hearts, essentially. So then you find President Shinra, and then you get a cool scene with Barrett, and then he pulls a gun on Barrett, and then Sephiroth's like, "Oh, I'm here," stabs Barrett, which it was just like, if you'd never played the game, I could see where you'd be like, "Oh my god, he stabbed Barrett. Barrett's dead." But when you played the game, you've been like, "They're not gonna kill off Barrett in fucking
that's
Midgar."
exactly what happened. I was like, he ain't dead.
After you finish this spot, you realize that they only did that to give you an excuse to only have Tifa and Aerith in your party, because they still never let you pick your party. They could have just said, "Who do you want in this fight?" But no, they literally, Sephiroth stabs Barrett just so he's not in your party. Like, I realized that after playing it, I was like, oh, this has nothing to do with the story. They literally just did that, so it's just like, Red 13
the whole thing.
Joins your party. He's not playable. He's an AI character. He also sucks.
Yeah, dude, he does nothing.
Red 13 sometimes heals you, sometimes does things. He basically has about the same AI as Donald fucking Duck.
Yeah, dude.
In Kingdom Hearts. Again, not to bring it back to Kingdom Hearts, but that's essentially what a lot of the frustrating... That's a good assessment. Here's my overarching assessment. Everything frustrating gameplay-wise in Final Fantasy VII can pretty much be tied back to the frustrating shit in Kingdom Hearts.
Right.
Maybe not everything, but a lot of my complaints were the same complaints I always had with Cage. And I'm very comfortable saying that, because as much as I love Cage, it's not a very well made.
Dude.
From mechanics, especially 3.
I mean, yeah, that's the biggest thing here is like,
so
when people scream and yell about these certain sections of games, stop doing the same shit, people.
Yeah. So then you fight Genova, which had some of my favorite music, because like it starts off as like a remix, and then when you get into like phase 2 of that fight, you get the OG like Genova theme.
Yeah.
Like at first it starts off slower, and it's like, okay, I can hear quotes, and then at like phase 2, when it really ramps up, you get the da 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 da, like the what you'd expect out of the Genova music. So you fight Genova, which was kind of a frustrating boss fight, but wasn't too bad. You get some more cutscene shit. You fight Rufus. You fight, and then you fight the tank as Aerith and Barrett, which is actually the tank that you fight in the. You fight it in. That's the final boss of Midgar in the original.
In the
also
OG,
fight it on the motorcycle.
Yeah, and then you're gone.
You fight the Valkyrie, the big floating thing, when you're on the plate leading to the Midgar, or leading to the Shinra Mansion. That's what you fight in the elevator in OG.
Yeah.
And then we see fucking Wedge again. After having his death 3 times, he whispers, crawl out the window. You don't see him fly out the window, because Nomura, I don't know why he's so fixated on Wedge. It's the only character he did this with, where he's like, Wedge falls off the balcony when they're about to drop the plate. He doesn't die, though. He catches himself with the grappling hook at the last second, and he's fine. The plate falls. You see Wedge trying to get his cats, and you watch the plate fall. Oops, Wedge is fine. Turns out his cats put him in a fucking hole. And that's how you find the underground research facility. Okay. Oh, we got separated from Wedge. We had to fight these Resident Evil-looking motherfuckers out of nowhere, these unnamed specimens. Oh, it's fine. Wedge is fine. His lifeless, unconscious body was among all these monsters. They just didn't bother because they're too busy the party. And then he's unconscious at Aerith's mom's house, shows up last minute with like the cavalry, which is like, oh, we have a helicopter waiting for you guys. Another cell of Avalanche is going to come save you because the mayor's part of Avalanche. And then that helicopter gets shot out of the sky, like that scene in Resident Evil 4.
Yep.
Exactly where Leon's like, nice! And then Reno and Root come in, and then Rufus jumps out. Rufa jump out.
So
Rufus jumps out. You get the Rufus fight, which they kept him as badass. I like.
Yeah, he is. It's just like it's super easy to win. It sucks.
I just wish the fight hadn't been such a resident sleeper, like to use Twitch emote lingo.
Yeah, like if you don't realize how to counter fight, then you're screwed.
Yeah, basically. And then so you do all that. You fight the tank as Aerith and Barrett with Red 13. And then you get the cool scene where Cloud's like, I got the motorcycle now. And it plays like a remix of the OG of the Final Fantasy VII theme. And then you get the motorcycle fight. And then you fight the tank on the motorcycle. Now, in the original, that tank you fight at the end of the motorcycle segment in the original Final Fantasy VII. If
Yep.
they made that the final boss, I would have been happy. I would not
Everybody
have been
would
upset. It would have been fine. You could have made
everyone on
you
this
could have made
goddamn
Roche
planet.
like the pilot of the mech. You could have brought Roche back. You could have made Rufus the pilot of the mech. You could have made the mech a really hard, giant. That could have been like the token giant monster 3-phase Square Enix boss fight. But no. We gotta suck Sephiroth's fucking cock. We gotta Nomora's too busy licking his 15-foot fucking sword. We gotta milk those Sephiroth kitties, because if we don't put Sephiroth in the game, the kids are gonna be upset.
We gotta make sure we sell enough toys, you bastards.
Nobody knows anything about Final, and this is part of it is the fact that this is supposed to be a part 1, but they wanted to make it a contained experience, and I get that. But when you talk to, like, I wouldn't say Joe Blow off the street, because especially in our fucking town, you say, hey, what do you think about Final Fantasy? They're going to go,
I don't know, man.
I'm too high
on dope right now.
Yeah, right. They're like, oh, is that some kind of myth? But you talk to the average, the casual, I guess, I hate using the phrase casual gamer, because I hate, like, hardcore gamer gatekeeping bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, if you talk to somebody
you
about
talk to people who aren't super fans of Final Fantasy VII or Square, you go, hey, what do you know about Final Fantasy VII? They're going to say Cloud and Sephiroth.
Yeah, I mean, and they'll know, like, oh, that was, like, one of the staple.
There were a lot of people who played this for the first time, who played the original after, who were like, oh, I never even knew the original went beyond Midgar. Like, there are literally a ton of people who didn't play the original.
Well,
like,
and thinking
oh
about
my
it,
God, it goes beyond Midgar?
Well, thinking about it of our age, we were 5 when it was released, 6.
Yeah,
it
came out in, like, 97, 98. So, yeah, we would have been, like, 5 and 6.
Yeah, well, I didn't play it until I was, like, 8 or 9 on my PS2, or my, 10 or 11.
The only reason I was introduced to it as young as I was at that point, because I have a brother who's 3 years older than me. So he was about 11 when the game came out. He was about 10 or 11 when the game came out, and being a 3 years younger brother, whenever my brother was playing a game, I just kind of sat there and watched him play and ate fucking Rice Krispie treats. And, like, that's just like
right. That's how it goes.
You eat Rice Krispie treats and drink fucking Capri Sun, and that was summer vacation. You watch your brother play PS1, and you do that, and then you go play basketball with the neighborhood kids, and then the 17-year-old douchebag skinhead bends the rim, and then nobody can play basketball anymore. So you go back home and you eat another fucking Rice Krispie treat, and you watch your brother play Legend of Dragoons this time because you got to change it up. But
yeah,
man, and that's largely what it was. And
like nobody would get out of Midgar because we were too young to fucking comprehend that it would be bigger than that.
Where the game becomes some bullshit, because the Whispers throw Wedge out the fucking window, and he's just like, just let me know that I made a difference. And then you hear glass shatter, but the screen goes black. Like, you already gave us so many red herring deaths for Wedge that the impact of his death is gone. Like, literally, if you wanted him to have an impactful death, you should have showed him holding his cats when the plate dropped, which they do, but then he survived. Him dying of that, of like, he got everybody out of Sector 7 and then goes back to save his cat, shows that he's a hero because he got everybody out first and then went and took care of his own shit. And then B, he dies saving his cats, which makes him a hero to the entire internet.
You know what? Why are they so? Why are they afraid of killing people? Why are they afraid of killing people?
I don't know. They kill fucking Jesse.
Well,
Jesse, I'm pretty sure actually is dead because we see.
All you see are gloves in the end. So you don't know.
Her gloves, or were those Biggs' gloves?
We don't know.
Because I thought those were Biggs' gloves because they're next to his fucking bed. Because Biggs somehow survives.
Well, that's what I mean, though. It's like, why do you struggle so hard with killing people that it's really not that detrimental if you do or not? And it actually adds motivation to the player.
Well, and that's the thing too, because the big character death that sparks the entire fucking plot, they undo. So you fight Sephiroth at the end of the game, but not before you fight the Whispers. Now, the Whispers are the arbiters of fate. We learned that their job is to make sure OG Final Fantasy VII happens. Their job is to make sure people die and people live so that the original flow of time happens as it's supposed to in the timeline. We get very, like, Days of Future Past, Dragon Ball Z, Trunks, Cell Saga level shit. So you fight the Whispers. You fight these, like, ruby, diamond, and emerald weapon looking things, and there's a giant, like, monster Whisper because it wouldn't be a Square Enix game unless we had a giant monster boss fight at the end. So you kill the Whispers, and then now it's like, okay, anything can happen. Anything. Even things that didn't happen in the original. And apparently that's what Sephiroth wanted the entire time, which we'll get into our theories here in a little bit because we're gonna need to probably wrap this up here before too much longer.
We'll have to do a part 2.
We've already been going for like an hour and 45.
Dude, we're gonna have to do a part 2.
We probably will. I could probably break this up into 2 parts as well, so we can just keep going and I'll just edit it, and I can always break it into 2 parts. No big deal. So you fight the Whisperers, you fight the whole thing, and then it turns out Sephiroth was like, just think, motherfucker, I wanted that the entire fucking GD time, bitch.
Boom, you played right into my hand.
It's like, you activated my trap card, Kaiba. Also, that's my chair. I'm not farting. If I was farting, I'd admit it. I'm losing my mind. I'm going to need another drink. I'm starting to get tilted, actually. I don't know. Well, it's probably the Baja Blast, honestly. It's like making me like hit turbo.
Ding, 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 ding.
But then you fight Sephiroth. And you fight Sephiroth, and you fight Sephiroth, and you fight fucking, you fight Sephiroth.
You
fight and defeat Sephiroth in Midgar. You don't kill Sephiroth. You get the scene at the end where they show like the flashes of like Cloud and Sephiroth are like fucking like showing off. And they do the showdown. Fucking Tumbleweed goes across type scene. At the end, when you use Omni Slash at the end of the original, they do that scene beat for beat again, except he doesn't do Omni Slash. He just tries to fight him and he doesn't win. So then Sephiroth's like, you got 7 fucking seconds. What you gonna do, bitch? And it's, from what a lot of people have said, it's the 7 seconds he's talking about are the 7 seconds that it takes for the meteor to fall at the end of the game.
Right.
There's also people are like, oh, thinking that it's also the 7 seconds between Aerith being at the altar to pray and like just 2 and Sephiroth stabbing her through the back and killing her. Because they show the characters glimpses of like, they say it's the future that happens if we fail here to destroy the Whispers. And you see beats that happen in OG Final Fantasy VII, including Aerith's death. So a lot of people are thinking that this is how they're going to keep Aerith alive and not kill her off, so she sticks with you through the end of the game.
And everybody lives, and it's happy.
But
Cloud
happy go fucking lucky. Through fighting Sephiroth, apparently is able to affect not only the present and future, but also the past. So he actually ends up creating an alternate timeline where Zack survives.
Yeah, Zack carries
somehow.
him.
And some people think that Zack is alive in the main universe, which would be like, if he was, he'd be in Midgar with Cloud. I've heard some people be like, oh, Zack's alive and he just went somewhere else. I disagree. I think it's like it's a Trunks thing. Again, to bring it back to Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah, the Trunks thing. Yes.
When Trunks goes back to his future, when Trunks goes back to his, like, it's like an alternate reality. Or an alternate, like, it's not so much like Back to the Future where it's like they just changed the timeline. It's they created a branching
parallel
path.
Universe. Yeah.
If you've ever for the sci-fi literature people, have ever read Mozart and Mirror Shades? That's where this was largely
influenced.
This it's where this was largely first created. I forget who wrote that. I don't think it was
you're essentially just making tree branches in time.
Basically, so it's tree branches in time.
It's not that it's a singular timeline.
You get that in with the Cell Saga in Dragon Ball Z. Like, Trunks goes back to his future. His future's still fucked up. But our timeline's fine because he gave Goku the medicine, they defeat Cell.
Also, he went ham as fuck.
Also that, too.
It was like one of my favorite sections of that.
But yeah, so that's basically what ends up happening is at the end of Crisis Core, you get to play that scene out as Zack, where you fight all those dudes as Zack until you die.
You get your fucking ass waxed.
So like you literally just keep going until you die, and it gives you a counter of like how many people you killed. So like you literally just like you can't heal. Yeah, it's basically just like a mini game, and it's like kill as many fucking dudes until you die. So you can either just sit there and just let him kill you and end the game faster, or you can like do that. So. But in this one, he lives. So now we have an alternate universe where Zack Fair is alive.
Right.
Which I kind of want them to make DLC between now and part 2. Or at the very least, a cutscene movie. I wouldn't mind watching, like, even if they did a movie like Advent Children, I wouldn't mind watching a little What If, like Uatu the Watchers, What If Marvel series of, like, Zack Fair is alive. Because now you have Zack and Cloud.
Right.
How does that?
Yeah, like what happens? Yeah, like how does that
things?
go down? How does that help?
Because it would just super fucking OP. Because if you have Zach and Cloud, like they would just be like wrecking shit all fucking day. Like they'd be unstoppable. Because you have two. I mean, literally, Cloud never made Soldier First Class, but because he was experimented on with Mako, he's still pretty friggin' powerful.
Like he's soldier level ability. So you have
his whole personality is just the fact that Zach was like, carry on my legacy. So the only real difference with Cloud would just be personality, and he wouldn't have the Buster Sword because Zach has it. Cloud would have to have a different sword.
Right.
They could give Cloud a different sword. They could give him one of the 5-6 swords that you get in the game. They just give Cloud Hard Edge the entire time.
Yeah, dude.
Or Twin Stinger, like. So it would be interesting to see if they do anything with it. Since it's Tetsuya Nomura, they won't. Or you'll get flashes, or they'll do this thing where like the timelines merge because you messed with the natural order, and then the time dudes from Rick and Morty are like, you don't fuck with time. They just come and beat the shit out of them. But yeah, it makes me wonder where they're going to go next, because they largely said they were like first they said the story beats would stay the same for the rest of it, where they were like, things are going to be as like, what you'd expect, but also they left it open for the ability for Aerith to live. So like, do they keep Aerith and maybe like Tifa gets killed or somebody else gets killed? My money is somehow Zach merges into this timeline and he's the one that gets stabbed by Sephiroth trying to protect Aerith. I could totally see that route happening. That's my theory. I
just personally, I think they're pussyfooting killing people. It's driving me up the wall.
Yeah. Or Zach somehow gets into the main timeline, and then in a huge twist, Cloud ends up getting killed, and then you play the rest of the game as Zach Fair.
That everybody would scream. Everyone would scream. And
yo, that would be honestly, that's like some Game of Thrones level. Like, if you
ever wanted to see Square Enix burn, then do that timeline.
That would be the timeline where they hired D&D. They hired David Benioff and D.B. Weiss. To write for they hire the Game of Thrones creators.
Yeah, why don't we just kill this main character off and not explain it?
That'll be fine. Go back to spoilers for Game of Thrones. Nobody cares about Game of Thrones anymore. Fuck Game of Thrones. It's last season. Right. Looking into the future, though, it's nice that they expanded more on Butai. The war of Butai that we largely saw in Crisis Core.
Right.
And so, because I don't see them making Yuffie and Vincent optional characters.
No.
I could totally see them just being normal characters, because enough people like Vincent and Yuffie anyway that it doesn't seem like there's any point to making them optional characters.
Yeah, and I want them to have the party where you can just plug and play party.
And I bet they're going to do that in the next one. I really do.
Yeah, I would hope to God they do, because people are going to start getting shitty if you start deviating too far.
Yeah, and that's what I'm hoping. I'm pretty sure in the next game they're going to do that, because at the end of Midgard is where you get a cell phone that lets you change characters in the field anyway. At that point you have enough characters that you have 5. You have Red 13, Barrett, and then Cloud and the girls, and the ladies. So you get more of that. So I'm pretty sure that's what's going to be in the next game. I'd really love to see what they do with Gold Saucer, see what they do with Kate Sith with his playstyle, because he's the only one that's real, and Red 13. Because I really hope they don't do like sub, where they do like sub party members, where it's like you get your 3 main party members and you get like a 4th like assist, because that's what they did with Red 13 in this game. I'm really hoping they don't like relegate certain characters to that role, where it's I think it was Cloud, Tifa, and Aerith.
I think it was a classy way to do it this time, because he got thrown in at the end.
The game.
Yeah, well, and it's like the beginning of the game for the original. It's like,
and that's
oh shit.
true. Yeah, in this, it's the final chapter. You get Red 13.
Right.
But I really hope they don't. I guess what I'm trying to say is I hope they weren't using this as a litmus test to be like, because Red 13 and Kate Sith were so cartoony in that way.
Right.
I really hope they're not like, you can pick Cloud, Tifa, and Barrett, and then you could have Kate Sith or Red 13 as a sub character, and they're AI controlled, and they just go do their thing, and they treat them like Donald and Goofy.
Well, and here's the thing.
Like,
here's the thing I see about it too, is like for years they were like Deadpool would not make a good movie. And everybody was like, it won't work. It's too cartoonish and it won't work and it's gonna be bullshit.
So and
then they made the movie and it was like one of the most fucking profitable movies made.
That's I'm hopeful. How many installments do you think we're gonna get? How many do you think it's gonna take?
3.
Do you think they're gonna do 3, just like the 3 discs?
I think they'll do 3.
I would think so.
I can guarantee they'll do 3. Just because I know how successful it's gonna be.
Mm-hmm.
But to go forward from that, I don't know. It depends on how much they pack in the next 2.
That's true, yeah.
Because they've tied in a lot of different shit into this first one that they didn't necessarily have to.
And I think they're not going to flesh out as much in the next games. I feel like in this one, when you hear them talk about it, a lot of what they talk about was that they wanted to do more with Midgar and couldn't.
Right.
So I feel like a lot of it has to do with Midgar and wanting to do more of that stuff earlier in the timeline of the game.
Right.
As opposed to, like, they're not going to make Wu Tai take 13 hours. They're not going to make the Gold Saucer take 20 hours. They're not going to make, Cosmo Canyon 8-hour experience.
Yeah, like
before you get to like Materia Keeper.
They're probably going to throw like 2-3 towns into a section here. You know what I
mean? And I could also see it being more linear as opposed to world map, like we know in the original.
Yeah.
Or they'll do it like Final Fantasy 15, where you're like in the car and you're just like going from place to place. And there's like already roads connecting, unless you have like a chocobo and you're going off road.
Yeah, it's almost semi-singular at that point.
I just hope there's more to do on the world map than in Final Fantasy 15, because Final Fantasy 15 does have a lot of dead space. There's a lot of just like, I'm here. There's monsters, but nothing else. So I'm really hoping there's more to do there. And that would be kind of, I don't know. I'm just like, I am excited though. I'm excited for what is to come.
It's super promising because it was super successful and they did do well. It's just, I'm going to say it all comes down to personal opinion on how you wanted it to flesh out.
I'd say so. I really would.
And because they just are fresh off Kingdom Hearts, of course it came off with a bunch of Kingdom Hearts shit.
And that's what I'm hopeful for in the next installments. They're not now, because it wasn't even coming off of Kingdom Hearts 3. Like, Kingdom Hearts 3, like, Nomura literally walked out. Like, he literally walked across the hall. Where he's just like,
right.
Like, all right, have fun. Final Fantasy time. Like, it's literally just like that Vine where the dude's like, hey, me and my bros are going to go see Uncle Cracker. And, like, his hat comes off. It's like, give him a hat back, Jordan. Like, he's just, like, turning. And he's just like... That's literally what it is, though. He just walks out into the hallway, makes a cup of coffee, and then walks into the door, like, next door. He's just like, all right, rev up that Final Fantasy 7. But now with this one, they're going to be coming off of Remake, or, doing where they're almost simultaneous.
I'm going to go out on a limb.
What's going to be in the next segments is going to be, okay, now we're improving on what we did in Remake, Part 1.
I feel like they're going to put out another one within, like, a year or 2.
Do you think so?
Yeah, because
I can see that. Honestly,
people will be itchy. People will be itchy because they're not going to come out with a subtitle. You know what I mean? Like a 16 or
that's true. Yeah,
another big game. So like they're just they need to just pull the hammer and like throw everything they have at like just putting the next remake out. And if the next remake flops, then you can start branching and kind of put it on the back burner and let it sit for 3 or 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing too, is like they're already doing another mobile Kingdom Hearts game where it's called just like Project Xehanort, where you play as young Xehanort. which I don't bother with the mobile games because they're trash. But and I'll fucking say it. I'll tell Nomura right to his fucking face. Those mobile games are garbage.
It's just like stop.
And they shouldn't matter in the story, but they do, and this pisses me off because with Kingdom Hearts, you got to play every single frigging thing to know what's going on.
Oh yeah, and you have to have like 15 different. You have to have 15 different console, mobile, DS,
Final Fantasy VII's kind of like that. So I'm hoping with the remake, they consolidate everything into the remakes. That way, you get the whole experience within the remakes.
Yeah, but comparative timelines too. You're talking about 30 years versus 15,
and that's also true. It's just nuts. But yeah, I feel like. I mean, let's put it this way. I'm not apprehensive at all about Remake Part 2. I have nothing that's like, I hope it doesn't suck. It's going to be like, all right, you give us more of what you gave us here, we're fine.
Yeah, dude.
That's what it is.
At the beginning, 9 out of 10.
Yeah, 9 out of 10. Oh, yeah, for me too. Very much.
Because every person that would have been present in his place would have done the ending different.
Oh, yeah.
Because you have to do something.
And that's the whole thing, and that's what kind of makes the ending. Well, it also leads it into like when like you get Aerith's like ending monologue where she's like, "Oh, I miss the Steel Sky because it's like they're out in the open. All they've ever known is Midgar, like or at least all Aerith's ever really known is Midgar. All Barrett and Kiva, well, not so much Kiva, but all Barrett's really ever known is Coral, and then Midgar, and then they're so used to living in that area that now they've just been thrown out into the world. It's like, all right, well, we're going to go find Sephiroth, I guess. Like, I don't know where we're going to go, but I guess we're going now, which is kind of how that segment ends in the original, where it's like, all right, well, we got to go find Sephiroth. Let's fucking go. So they did get that, and then they show kind of the flash where it's like they show Zack alive, like, and he like walks between Aerith and Cloud. So, like, it kind of, it almost makes you feel like the whole Destiny's Crossroads thing, like figured it out. And that's my big theory. Now we're going to get into like theory crafting. My theory is that maybe not so much Cloud, but definitely Aerith and Sephiroth. The Aerith and Sephiroth we have in this game are the same Aerith and Sephiroth as the original.
Oh, no.
And their consciousness has come back in time, because you definitely get the idea that Sephiroth already knows what's going to happen. And he's always had that motif of like, oh, as long as Cloud remembers me, I'm going to be alive. Like, as long, like, he lives through Cloud's memories,
through his
literally and like physically and also metaphorically. You kind of sometimes get flashes that Cloud knows, because like in a few of the scenes where you would expect to see Zack like giving him a pep talk, you just see another Cloud. So it's almost like, does he have Zack's memories still, or is this like old Cloud? Like, did he lose his memories and old Cloud's guiding him? Kind of like a Link situation.
Yeah.
Probably just talking out of my ass.
Partial amnesia or whatever.
You definitely know that Aerith knows what's going on, and you definitely know that Sephiroth knows what's going on.
Oh, dude,
my guess
for sure.
is Sephiroth sent his consciousness back in time, which we already know is possible in Square Enix verse, because literally it's what Xehanort does in Kingdom Hearts.
Dude, I know.
Literally, it's what Nomura does with Xehanort in Kingdom Hearts 3D and in Kingdom Hearts 3. It's the same exact shit.
Yeah.
Where the rules that he sets up are, as long as there's a copy of you in the past, you can basically transfer your consciousness to the past. So it lets Xehanort fucking travel through time. That's how he makes
personally,
all the copies of
I don't like that, but it works.
It's fucking stupid. But so basically, Sephiroth's following those rules of of time travel that Nomura has kind of crafted for the greater Square Enix verse. I guess as we're calling it, because what the heck else are we going to call it at this point? So you definitely know that, and then Sephiroth basically manipulates the party into killing the Whisperers, because they're the ones that are keeping fate on track of like trying to make sure everything in Final Fantasy VII happens as it did in the original.
Yeah,
which some
basically
people have said is also
fail.
a metaphor for the audience, which I thought was funny. I don't think that's necessarily true, but that's a funny thought to have. That the Whispers are a metaphor for the audience of like, you got to do everything exactly the same.
Right. People just like, if you don't do it line for line.
And then the party killing the Arbiter of Fate and the Whispers is Nomura giving a middle finger to the audience, which we also know from Kingdom Hearts he likes to do. People are going to think I hate Kingdom Hearts. It's actually one of my favorite video game franchises to play.
No, it's just it's tough to have disagreements. You know,
good.
just having the giant disagreements with setup. Like, oh.
But yeah, so you get the feeling that Sephiroth manipulated the party, and Aerith literally like gives Cloud basically a talk of like, shit's gonna fucking go down, and it's not gonna be good.
Right.
But we're gonna beat Sephiroth together.
Well,
so you get her kind of being like,
yeah,
I know what's gonna happen, and it probably will still happen, because even after we kill the Whispers, like, you get the feeling, I get the feeling they're gonna, Nomura's thing is like, you killed the Whispers, there's a chance to keep Aerith alive, and they're still just gonna fucking kill her, and they're gonna try to make that more emotionally.
Yeah, it's gonna rain it right back in.
Oh, now it's not even fate. Now it's just like it happened. So now it's like we had the ability to stop it, but we didn't. So it's gonna be like even worse the second time around. Right. I think is what he's going for.
All right, man, not to interrupt, but my phone will die.
Okay,
is it 2%?
Okay. Final thoughts, James. We're gonna go ahead and do final thoughts. What's your final thought on FF7 or anything you want to tell to the gang?
Pretty much everybody, if you can play it, play it. It is a beautiful masterpiece of somebody remaking a game from the god-awful Polygon era.
Mm-hmm.
And it has a wonderful story. It has a wonderful story. And it's a great story even now, 20-some years later.
Oh, yeah. And you know, it's one of those, and the way it ends with, and the new song that they have is amazing. The way it ends, it says the untold story will continue. So that very much sets up to like, we're getting a new experience. It's going to have things that we know, but it's going to be fresh, which I love, because I don't know, you know, as much as, you know, oh yeah, the same thing over again with PS4 graphics would have been nice. Why do you want to play the same game just again?
Right.
Like Capcom did that with Resident Evil, where it wasn't exactly the same game. They switched some things up, and it works. It's been working. It gives you the same base experience, and it freshens it up for a new time. So you definitely just let the creators do that, is what I say. And it was kind of like whatever. It's a good game. 9. I'd be comfortable giving it a 9.5. It's not a 10 out of 10 because it definitely has things that I had issues with, as we know. But yeah, 9 out of 10. James, you seem to be pretty.
Oh yeah, totally.
Much on the 9 out of 10.
Solid 9 out of 10 for sure.
So there we go. That brings us to the end, because James's phone's about to die. So we can do another one of these. You know, obviously, if we hear anything about part 2, we'll do this again. If you guys have anything that we missed that you want us to talk about, maybe in a part 2, let us know in the comments down below. And much like Final Fantasy VII Remake, the untold story of Marvin's Room podcast will continue.
Right on. Thanks for having me, man.
Cloud and gang will return in Avengers Infinity Materia.
Infinity Materia.
The Avalanche Avengers. James, thanks a lot for being on, man. I know we've been trying to do this for a while, so it's good to be able to get it done.
We've been putting this off, but it's all good.
Yeah. All right. Well, have a good night, everyone.
Hey, later, man.